I can't even justify the dillying. So I'm used to. There we go. Pretty so much for natural I am. Oh yeah, just ignore that bit. Can you please take the model at face value? Like, stop shining a light in places your light has no business being. um, that's staying in, right?
Jensen, don't think for a moment that I didn't see you on mute and you
I
talked.
noticed you did because I noticed you started smiling.
Explained all this already.
I know, but like sometimes, like it's just like, shut up.
John Everetti, he's the Italian.
That's the one I almost got that one.
I got the hybrid. This was like $20 in Texas.
That's it.
So
I think I have that kit too. I think you gave it to me.
I think I did, and I've regretted it since. So I bought another one.
I would have given it back to you.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
That's friendship, TJ, right there.
For a minute, I was like, and no yeehaw for you anymore. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 113 of the Plastic Posse podcast. I'd like to thank our partners, Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, Bases by Bill, and AK Interactive, and also a big thanks to all our Patreon supporters. I'm joined by my usual band of merry men. I do want to go around the chat and find out what everyone's been up to. I shall go last because I have very little to say. So I'm going to shine the spotlight on TJ because I know how much he loves it when I pick him first.
No, I've been doing all right. I don't have a whole lot going on the bench right now. I had an unexpected week off 2 weeks ago, which was nice, and I got a fair amount of modeling done. I finished a model, started another model, and completely built it. And yeah, now I'm just plugging away on a project that should hopefully make it to SMC in 6 months now. Yeah, that's pretty much what I got going on.
That time's going quick. 6 months already. I remember it was like just a year ago, like last week. Okay. Very nice. I nearly said JB. There's two JBs in call. Scott, how about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. Really, really busy. Just crazy. Day job's been nuts, and working on getting 48 and 48 auctions processed and starting to get those out. And just busy. Really doing a lot of planning for the show here in Salt Lake City, the Rocky Mountain Expo. So yeah, just busy.
Yeah, busy. Time is really, I know 2024 went quick, but it seems like this year's going like really quick and no real time to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be July before we know it.
Yeah, then everyone will be cooking. Grant, how about your very merry self?
I'm doing pretty good. Been busy with work though, like everybody else. I was able to finish up my Crusader that I did for the 48 and 48 build. By the way, thank you everybody. Check out the mount we made this year. It's fantastic. I did finish up another one for commies, which is coming up a week from when we're recording this right now, so it'll be next week for us. But yeah, everything's going great. I'm doing good and trying to stay focused for SMC, which everything's bought for. I'm ready to go. I will be there this year, so I'm very stoked about that, and I'm using 80 slang words to prove that. So we should be good.
Dude.
Very nice.
Stoked. I'm stoked.
No, I'm very excited to see everyone for SMC. Like, get everyone over. It's going to be every year. It's good, but this is going to be something special. And JB, what have you been up to?
Speaking of someone special, I've been well. It's been nonstop with work and the trip the last 2 weeks. So, bench time has been extremely limited, but it was a lot of fun that we'll get into of the two shows that TJ and I had an opportunity to go to in Pennsylvania and then up in Ontario. But outside of that, in terms of working, was able to complete that Stewart for the 48 and 48. So that was a really fun build. And now I'm in the process of finishing just a simple base for it. It's really getting focused. I've been going around on a lot of different projects. The Kuba wagon is still there, but I've gotten bit by the Firefly bug. So I had a Ryefield model Firefly show up this week with, among many other things, from Andy's Hobby headquarters. And I'm looking forward to starting that this weekend. I have a Polish version I'm going to do with a crap ton of track on it and stowage, a lot of character, even some evergreen ferns on it, or bushels. So got to get the new Faustus, or I should say RT diorama set for that. But yeah, that's what's on the bench. I got to clean up the room, but hopefully get to be able to do some building this weekend. Got a little bit of work to do, but yeah, looking forward to actually making progress on some models.
There's very few things cooler than Commonwealth Shermans, especially Fireflies, because they loved to put tracks on them. Loved it. Americans didn't really tend to do that. You don't see it very often, but man, the Brits and the rest of the Commonwealth nations just cover them things.
Yeah, the Firefly, I mean, it's so, God, there's probably three of them I actually really want to do. And they all have different types of tracks. The one I'm doing has, and I'm not a Sherman expert, but it's steel chevron with the three dots. It's the British version.
T62.
Yeah, T62. Act like I knew that. And then there's also two other vehicles. One of them has Panzer IV tracks all over it. And then the one that's super unique, and Brian Krieger had posted this probably 6 months to a year ago. There's a Canadian Firefly in Holland with a crap ton of Grizzly tracks on it. And that's just so much character as well. But I chose this one because it's got those T62, which are super unique, and you can make them steel and weathered. But then it's got the pine ferns and then a bunch of stowage on it as well. Some of those ammo boxes, I think. So here's the question, and I know we're just going off topic all of a sudden, but they have those ammo boxes on the rear bustle. I'm trying to figure out, did they weld those on? Did they?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, great.
Yep.
That makes it easy for me then. So yeah, I'm super stoked to start that project because of the character, just the accessories you can use. M36 modeling. Shout out to Jackson. He has all those ammo cans on Cults. So I'll pick those up and print them this weekend. But essentially, I'm ready to get off to the races. And then I have Panzerworks damaged tracks, which are T48s. The rubber chevrons, which it's really interesting. I know we're jumping into a deep subject already, but Fireflies, it looks almost common where they replace their steel chevron tracks with the T48s. More common than not, I feel.
The other way around.
Do they use T48s on the vehicle?
They probably came with T48s, and at some point, the British
were
preferred all. They preferred all steel tracks. They did not like the rubber block tracks. Americans like the rubber block tracks. So they were issued most likely with those tracks, and probably used them until they wore out and could swap them out.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the one you chose has a lot of interesting features going on. It's got the Grouser vent covers face backwards.
Yeah.
So they clearly had taken them off at some point and just didn't care and just put them back on. And it's also missing the stowage box on the back of the radio box that the Fireflies had, which is
Yep.
you don't see a whole lot. Normally it'll have that stowage box on it, but yeah, that you chose a cool one.
Yeah, and it's funny. I actually looked at Tank Art's book, and I think the one that Mike did in #2, is very similar to the vehicle I'm doing because it has those tracks on the sides and then some of the stowage configuration as well. I'm hoping to do, dare I say, there you go. Take a shot, Pat. That's the first one of the episode, and that one's just for you. I did that on purpose. I will look to replicate that photo in its exact form, I guess, from that certain angle. Now, from the front glacis, using other photographs to make a composite vehicle, essentially, but the right side, at least, and the rear is going to be hopefully exactly the same.
Yeah, that's always the tricky part when you're doing something with track armor, because almost always only one side or from the back, and you're like, well, what they put on the front? They had something there.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So fortunately, there's a lot of good photographs from the front of Firefly. So I'll probably do a combo of tracks, stowage, soft stowage, and then I got to put a wheel on there too. So I'm looking forward to it. It's been over 20 years since I built a Firefly, and yeah, it should be great. The Ryefield kit's supposed to be good, right, Jensen?
It's amazing. It's good because I actually finished it.
Yeah, it's
Shocker.
Just don't put the periscope brush guards on.
Okay.
Almost no operational Fireflies had those. They were introduced by the time they introduced the British were already building Fireflies
Mm,
with what they had. So
cool. Good to know.
and since we're
Speaking,
talking about it, I'm going to do one too. I found a 1C hybrid. So that's a M4 composite for the uninitiated. And mine has Churchill tracks all over it, which is pretty cool.
man, I'll bet that
Nice.
looks really cool. I love Churchill tracks. That's awesome. That's an awesome choice. Speaking of really cool Commonwealth armor, TJ, that photo you sent me of the Crusaders today, I hadn't seen that before. I think you said you hadn't either, but man, that is really cool.
Yeah, that was yeah, it's like three Crusaders. There's at least one Crusader 3 in the mix. I think two Crusader 2s, and they're rolling into El Hama and Tunisia. And from what I was able to find out, that picture was taken on March the 29th, 1943. So what was that, 82 years ago?
Jeez.
Yeah, to the date, which was pretty cool. Probably why it got posted today. That was right after the Brits chased the Germans out of that town.
Hey, while we're just kind of talking, Jensen wanted to talk a little bit about the Sam Dwyer's new YouTube channel that he's launching. It's called SD Scale Models. Right now, when I looked this morning, he had like 64 subs. So, listeners, let's get those numbers blown up for Sam. I think it's about time he's done one of those. I'm looking forward to it.
After many years of requests, it's finally happened.
Jensen, what's going on with you, man?
Great question. So I'll start off with just going back. Speaking of Fireflies, I'm doing the exact same variant as TJ, but I'm going to do that. It's almost cliche. It's like the one image that comes up first on Google Images. It's the one that was 1944, the Battle of the Bulge Firefly, where it's got the four British crew, two in the turret, one's like climbing on in front of the turret, and one's in the driver's hatch. It's got shit piled all over it, as Fireflies do. It comes with the additional stowage, which is nice. A bit like yourself, JB. I've got the Panzerwerk worn pad tracks with duckbills to put on, because my version has that. The only thing Jackson said I needed, I said the only thing, metal barrel, resin antennas, antenna mount, because they're always a nice upgrade. I also got the fire extinguishers, because they're always a nice upgrade as well. 30 cal machine guns, because they're just nice to have. So I got the nice accessory. Yeah, I couldn't find it in the UK, so I had to order it from Poland. 160 quid later, I've got all this extra stuff for it. The only thing, yeah, he said there was little toe fitments on the lower hull that don't come on the kit, but should be on mine. And he says he can 3D model them in like 5 minutes. So I'm going to hold him to that. He can 3D model them for me in 5 minutes, and I'll get them printed and added on. And I just need to find some very, very, very fine, thin wire netting that is like just kind of thrown and tattered across the front of the tank. Don't know how I'm going to come, because I'm a bit like JV. I'm going to try and replicate that image exactly as it is. Kind of hard to do it on a base, because it's not hard to do the base because it's very flat. It's like half on the road, half on the pavement. But there's no real vertical element to that scene. The buildings are in a very far distant, and I don't know what is obviously behind the camera or to the side. But artistic license, I'm going to do whatever I want. So that'll be really cool. I'm still working on the Takom Panther G Flak Panther. It's a weird thing, that it really is. But Faustus, very fortunately, recently has released a lot of Panther G upgrades. So damaged cleaning rod tubes, all the weapon racks, damaged stowage bins, rear engine panel stuff. Just is gone to town on the Panther. Bought all those files, and I've been printing them off. Got the printer back up and running after months of not being used. And what I love about these new printers, plug and play, just like quick VAT clean, and it just prints perfectly again straight away. So I've got that up and running. So I can hopefully get the Panther G done for amps, which is coming up in 6-ish weeks, probably less now. But apart from that, playing a lot of darts. I'm growing veg because I'm now an 80-year-old man. Good running machine. Just doing everything apart from what I should be doing, which is modelling. Do want to give Tankcraft a shout out. I know we mentioned it in the last episode, but it's always nice to mention it again. Does have 2 new mats available, double-sided Tiger 1 and M4A3E8. These have been updated and again are double-sided. And if you're like me and you spill your glue a lot and you ruin the design on one side, flip it and have a nice fresh side to brighten up your bench. Okay, JB, any updates on the Kubelwagen build? I know that is in a couple of days coming to a close.
Yeah, and like all group builds, I'm woefully behind, but I'll just say the April deadline is a soft deadline. Honestly, the real deadline is the AMPS show, which is in the middle of May. A lot of us will be going to it and bringing our Kubels, so do not feel pressurized to get it done by April 1st. That's totally fine. That's just a soft target, and I'm going to blow right through that. It's going really well. There's been a lot of participation. Shout out to Hendrik, John Colasante, and other individuals that have actually catted up a bunch of stuff to support the group build. I've printed some of those wheels. Absolutely gorgeous, and it's just really nice to see that support in the community. And I think Matt as well, Dukes was catting up some as well. So overall, it's been fun. It's been great to see a lot of people involved, a lot of different Kubels. Some have been finished already. Like I said, my plan is to have it done at AMPS. I'll be doing the Monuments Men version, but overall, the participation has been great. It's super casual. Again, Peter Fidlowski, if you're listening, if you do a Kubel artwork, maybe we'll get some merch made with it on it. The creative outlet is yours for the taking if you'd like it. But overall, keep participating, and if you are going to AMPS, please bring it to AMPS because we'd love to see it. But that is it with the Kubel.
Man,
Nice.
bless you for saying that, John, because I ordered a new Kubel kit yesterday. I had some chipping fluid that I suspect was a little bit long in the tooth, and I started chipping mine, and it went south. And I think such a great kit to build. It's probably a more efficient use of my time to just get another one rather than try to strip it all back and repair it that way. So amps it is. That sounds good because there's no way mine's going to be done in, let's see, 2 days.
So Scott's doing a redo.
So I'm doing a redo. Like I said in episode 112, never underestimate how much of a menace I am to any build, especially one that has like a time pressure element involved with it. So that's where I'm at.
I'm really glad you've extended that because mine is currently still in sealed bags in the boxes. I bought both of them, the Eastern Front and the North Africa one, and they've just not been touched. I've looked at the kits; it's like these look like they'll go together in a couple of days. Still not opened, but I did print the North Africa wheels from Matt's in Scale. Wow, they've printed beautifully. They are really nice wheels. Having printed them, all the more reason to start that kit now. And AMPS is a much more achievable deadline now because we all know I love to dilly dally.
Oh, you have the dilliest of the dallies for sure.
I
I
know.
was waiting for TJ to smash that softball that Jensen lobbed.
I can't even justify the dillying. It just I seem to. It's like I've got all this time, and then all of a sudden I don't have the time anymore because I've filled the day with 6 hours of throwing darts at a wall.
Well, you don't want it to get in the way of that spinach you're growing in your garden. So,
Well,
Tomatoes, spinach.
If we're being specific, massive tangent now. On my windowsill, I currently have cayenne chilies growing, Carolina Wonder red peppers, chives, spring onions, salad leaves, and well, coriander or cilantro. Got quite the window boxes going, and they've all sprouted. So my old man hobbies are going well.
Sounds like a topping of a good baked potato.
It's so nice to have Martha Stewart on as a co-host this episode.
So you've addressed the dillying, but what about the dallying?
You know, that's a great question. I'd love to say I have an answer for it. I look at the stuff; it's right there. I just don't touch it. I mean, the Panthers, it's this close from being done. Really, I was just waiting to get the Fausta stuff printed, all which I have. It now just needs to go on the model, and then the actual construction's finished. My only worry with it is the ball turret that's on it actually looks really cool now. I've re-welded it and textured it and added all this flame cut marks. Looks really good. The only problem is if I want to have it in the position of the cannons facing upwards, which I do, it is a flak. You can see down the sides of the turret into the void of nothingness, and I don't know if that's something I'm going to get bollocked for. I don't know what to do about that, and I'm not going to build an interior kit just so I can say there is an interior there.
The problem you're gonna have is in my opinion, no, that shouldn't matter because it's not an open hatch. It's just you can happen to see in because of a quirk of the kit. However, you will get some that will argue that you should have something inside. I've heard multiple stories about it from amps and judges saying crap like that. Like, who was just telling this one? I can't. We were just talking about it that you couldn't see an engine through the engine grill, so they had to deduct points from it or whatever. Like, but who cares? It's got a grill over. You can't. Oh, I think it was Ken Childress was telling me years ago he brought a kit and I'm pretty sure it was him or it was one of his friends, and I think it was, I don't know if it was a tiger or German something or other, Yag tiger or something, and you couldn't see, if you shined a light, you could see through the mesh, and he's like, well,
Hmm.
don't shine a light through the mesh. That's
Yeah.
not why we're here. Why does that matter? But you get a judge that wants to do that. Hopefully, most of the time, they can get talked out of it. But, speaking from experience, when I was in Atlanta, there was a judge that wanted to disqualify my tank because I didn't have an interior in the open hatch. The other three judges are like, we're not going to do that. That's just, come on. That's not the point of this. It's
Yeah.
clear, I was clearly, and he was adamant that nope, it should be disqualified. Not even judge, just nope, just he put it in the wrong category. It needs to be disqualified.
Take the model for what it is. Don't go digging.
To me, the mentality should be, and I feel like AMPS preaches this too. You judge what the modeler did, not
Yes.
what they didn't do. But some people just don't want to do that. And I don't, yeah, it's frustrating.
So went on a massive tangent. I have no idea what we were talking about originally. Oh yeah, we were talking about my tank having a void. Yeah, there's
You're
a void.
Flak Panther.
That's it. Yeah, it's got a void. Yeah, I was thinking I'm just gonna like panel it off, paint it black. Like if anyone goes in and says like you can't see anything, it's like exactly you're not supposed to. It's a ball turret, which I
I
don't know
wouldn't
if
even
those.
worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just do it. Who cares?
at that point, I have to actually worry about finishing it. So
Yeah.
yeah, no need to stress. I still need to do some welding on it, add the 3D stuff, get the Panzerwerk tracks assembled, which I don't think is really going to be a long process because they're really nice tracks. Get them done, put them on the model, and it is ready for paint. Because I've already sanded and damaged up all the tires and stuff, and in their own little labeled containers. Yeah, really quick build actually. Moving on, I would like to find out what everyone liked on the Plastic Posse group. Let's start at the top of our list. Mr. Bonani, what caught your eye this week?
Yeah, I'm a little biased because it's armor, but shout out to Steve Baker. He's doing a wonderful job on Tamiya's Panzer 38T. The modulated Panzer Gray looks really good, and it's starting to come alive. It really gives you that Euro style, and I really like it. And I think that's a departure for Steve from some of his recent builds. So happy to see him pushing it. No feedback other than keep going, man. And I look forward to seeing it in person at Commies Fest next weekend.
I echo that. I think Steve's really pushed it, and one of my favorite armor builds, like I've said, I know he's a aircraft guy, air quotes, right? But one of my favorite armor builds ever is Steve's. He has a good eye for it, and like you said, JB, I think this one's really great.
I mean, Panzer Gray with the red and white numbers on it's like my favorite combo. I love the red and white numbers; they're awesome. But I was gonna say my choice is Dane Taylor's Mark 44 Axe Knight. I think he posted a couple days ago. It was pretty cool. He's got the I love when you pose a Mark 44 with the cockpit open, just because the way it like folds down. And he did a Russian turquoise cockpit turquoise on the inside, which I have a soft spot for. I've done a Mark 44 like that too. And yeah, it was really cool. I liked it. I think he said he was going to take it to the South Carolina show, which I think is in Myrtle Beach, which may be this weekend. It might be next weekend. I can't remember. So good luck to you. Did a really good job.
Love that color. That turquoise is like you say. It's just there's something about it. It's just like oh, I like it. What about yourself, Grant? What caught your eye?
I'm gonna say Rob Herring's. It's not a kit. It's actually sculpting he did on a figure, the Tobiah infantry figures, the new set. He made the M1 ammo bags on the back of his 101st soldier from 1945, I believe, winter 1945. If you take a look at it, look on the back of it. He actually sculpted the quick release strap, the little silver D-ring thing on the back. It's amazing what he did in 135th scale. And it's just really good. Did some really fantastic work. He's great modeler and just all around good guy. So it's nice work.
Very nice. No, yeah, I noticed that one. It's smashing. Scott, what about your good self? What brought the sparkle to your eye from the Facebook group?
I'm going to go with David Bryan Bridges. He's done, the Bandai 1144 scale Millennium Falcon. I know you see a lot of these, but David's really executed this to a high level. I like his treatment of different panels, a lot like the prototype. Some panels have almost like a heavy wash appearance, and other panels have a lot of chipping around them, and some of them have staining and leaking onto other areas of the model, and he's about 95% done. It's really sharp. I think David did a terrific job. Kind of think about Gabe Pincelli's 1144 Falcon and Justin Lentz as well. I think it's definitely up there in that pantheon of these Bandai kits. So anyway, great job, David. Really, really nice.
Great verbiage, the pantheon of kits.
Yeah, I know.
Good Lord.
It's Jensen's influence. I have no other excuses. What the listeners couldn't see is I had my pinky in the air as I said it.
Anyway, so for me, kind of, I kind of had to pick this as soon as I saw it. I was like, right, I'm having that for the show. Got to be Sam Dwyer's 1/32nd scale Qatari Mark 1A Spit. It's gorgeous. So that was really camp. It's proper good. That is. No, it's beautiful. It's so well built, so well. It's got like Sam's, not like it's got his signature of weathering. It's so well executed. It's Mark 1 Spitfires. They can either be really clean or really knackered up. And he's gone for a really nicely balanced. It's heavily used staining, chipping. I like how he's done the worn down paint with the metal. It's really nice. And I know there was a bit of a influx of these builds like finished when the kit came out, but he's took his time with this one because we know Sam, he likes to take his time on kits, and this one's just beautiful. And I think it's his first finish of 25, and what a finish it is. And another plug, he's just started up a YouTube channel. Just going to say that again.
Is that SD scale models, Jensen?
Oh, I think it might be. That is SD scale models, if I remember right. Yeah, you are. It's SD scale models on YouTube. Trademark. Okay, Scott, you've got a partner highlight for us, if I assume correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jensen. I had a conversation this week with Christian Gurney from Bases by Bill. I'm going to play that conversation for you now. Here's that conversation with Christian. All right, everybody. Well, I am here today with a good friend, Christian from Bases by Bill. Christian, how have you been?
Well, we've been great. It's exciting to see the show season underway, and we've had an opportunity to go to a few and see our customers face to face. So that's always exciting.
Besides being a great partner to the Plastic Posse, Bases by Bill has been a fantastic partner for my own show here in Salt Lake, the Rocky Mountain Expo. Even over and above that, they've also been a very generous sponsor of the Global 48 and 48 annual group build event that benefits Models for Heroes. So, Christian, I just really want to thank you for that effort in particular.
Yeah, we were delighted to help. This is our second year, and we're looking forward to future years. Anything we can do, these days to help people out that are in need, we're happy to do it in our own little contribution.
Well, it's really appreciated, and the U.S. Canadian leg of that, we were able to raise $10,000 to give to Malcolm and his charity, and I know that is going to help a lot of veterans and first responders using this amazing hobby that we share a passion for.
Yeah, it's a tremendous effort, and thank you to your group and everybody that made that possible, including the people that participated in the auction. We really thank you for that.
While we're talking about that, a couple of the items that you have donated that were auctioned off to winners is something that I'm really excited about. It's a new product line of carrier deck bases, and so I was wondering maybe if you could tell our listeners a little bit about what those are and what the intentions are behind them.
Yeah, as you know, right now the carrier decks are brought to you either in Baltic birch or in MDF, and they're 6 millimeters thick, and you can take them and finish them and add things to them. And we got to thinking about, well, is there a way to extend that product a little bit? And the answer is yes. As you know, Bill Wiedeward, the founder of the organization and the namesake, is an excellent woodworker. So what we've done is we've taken about a 3/4 thick cherry board, augured out or routed out the center of it so that it will accept the deck so that it's flush. And then the rest of the cherry hardwood is routed on the edge to give it a very nice finish. And then I think it's available, let's see here, I'm counting in 5 different stains. So we'll be providing those to the winners from the 48 and 48 auction. And then we'll be launching the product here shortly to everybody. So it'll be available both for the carrier decks as well as our relatively new airfield series. So we're pretty excited about that. The innovation came about because when we did the 1/144th scale single engine aircraft carrier decks, we saw that they were way too small to really handle on the show table. And so we added that cherry hardwood base to it to make it a little bit easier to handle or for judges to handle. And then we made some investments in equipment to allow us to make larger holders, the cherry holders. We needed to get some additional equipment to route all of that centerpiece out. So we're pretty excited about it, and we're hoping that our customers will be excited as well.
I'm sure they will. It's a really great way to display a model aircraft. Now, what scales do those come in?
Those come in 172 and 148th to start. We are looking at 132nd, but it turns into an awfully big piece of wood. I think the way to handle that is if you do need it for 132nd, you should just get in touch with us directly, and we can talk to you about what you need and what the price might be for that.
Also, those come in U.S. Navy and also Imperial Japanese Navy, correct?
Yes. And we are, I guess, happy to reveal on this program that we will have modern U.S. carrier decks probably within the next 30 to 45 days. And those will actually come with the 5-prong pad eyes that are used to chain the aircraft down, as well as texture on the decks. So we've been asked for modern stuff for quite some time. Obviously, we're excited about that, and we'll be keep an eye on our Facebook or other pages that we have for more information as that comes along.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's kind of review how people can take a look at these photos of these and order and everything. So let's get all your particulars out. Let's start with Facebook and website.
Yeah, we have a page called Bases by Bill. So just simply search in Facebook and you come there and see the various contact information. The real place to go is basesbybill.com. That's where we have all of the products listed. We have various news or blog posts there to help you. That's also a way to contact us. There's a form on every page to contact Bases by Bill if you have questions or suggestions or anything at all that you'd like to talk to us about. We're happy to respond to those.
Yeah, it's really easy to work with these guys. I mean, if you want something custom, they can accommodate so many different things. Anybody that's seen one of their products, seen one of their bases, you know the quality that they invest in making these bases that are, something you could be proud to put a model on. Go check that out. And man, exciting new products.
Yeah, and there are some additional things coming. The airfield bases that we offer right now are basically modern. As you know, a modern jet airfield, you can't have damage or things like that because it's FOD, right? But we're about to introduce aged concrete and then really distressed concrete. So if it's a more austere type of situation or maybe an abandoned aircraft, that'll be cracked with pieces. The other thing is our good friends over in the Soviet Union had some really interesting concrete airfield that were based on hexagons. And so we'll be offering those. There's two different sizes. They had one size used during the Second World War and then another size in the 50s. And then they also invented a thing called the PAG 14. And this was a precast, pre-stressed concrete slab that exposed part of the rebar on each edge to be able them to be welded together. And in fact, there's photos out there of these runways constructed from this PAG 14 still in work and in use. When we were in Afghanistan, we were running our C-17s over this in Kyrgyzstan, I think it was. And it's amazing stuff. So that'll give the Warsaw Pact modelers some additional things to display their aircraft on. And of course, all those bases will fit into the hardwood display. Finally, on the 1/144 side, we know that airliners are popular. So we're going to introduce kind of a custom size. You put in a size up to the maximum dimensions that we can put together for you, and we'll make you a modern concrete airfield for your airliners and your larger size 1/144 scale. So we've got a lot of products coming this summer It's really a challenge to keep up right now because we're in the design phase, which frankly is where most of the work occurs. So, and then add to that all of the awards that we're doing. We were proud to be part of the inaugural Rocky Mountain Hobby Expo, and we're looking forward to the second annual Rocky Mountain Hobby Expo. And so we do major awards, gold, silver, bronze, and 1, 2, 3, all sorts of different styles. And if you attend a contest this year, you'll probably see something. We've supported the IPMS Nationals in the past as well. So it's another part of our business that we don't talk about a lot, but just thought I would bring it up for your listeners.
Yeah, it's fantastic quality too. I mean, whether it's the individual coins or medals or the really nice, kind of more beautiful, I guess, special awards, you've got a lot of tricks up your sleeve, and you're really, the custom touches you brought to our awards at the expo were really appreciated. Well, that's exciting news about all those new bases and all those new products. And then you do other products as well, too, right? You do the one-man army masks.
Yes, we have a relationship with One Man Army out of Belgium. Those are precision cut masks with a highly tuned specialized laser and materials that the founder, Sven Verlinde, has put together. We've been offering those since last August. They definitely provide an amazing finish. And what's interesting is that One Man Army is now moving into the 48 scale. So they've been primarily available for 32nd scale aircraft, a little bit of 35th scale armor, but the main focus has been aircraft. So now in April, we'll be able to bring to the United States Hurricane data stencils in 148th, Hurricane Mark 1, and really exciting, Focke-Wulf FW190 data stencils, national markings, and fuselage numbers and things like that. I've seen the samples. It's amazing how small they are, but it looks like the real thing. Bill just finished old Edward BF-109 E4 and used the One Man Army mask for it, and it is a thing of beauty. So we're really excited to be able to continue to bring those products to our customers here in the U.S. And all of those mask sets include shipping. Shipping's included with those.
They're fantastic products. Like you said, the small detail that they're able to get is just tremendous. And there's nothing like painted markings. Especially those small little markings where you've got to have normally so much carrier film that it could be really a challenge to eliminate silvering on those, but being able to custom paint those really takes care of that. So awesome product there. Well, Christian, this is exciting. Lots of great stuff. One more time for the listeners out there, your website.
It's basesbybill.com. As we like to say, there's always something new at Bases by Bill.
Well, thanks for joining me today. We are excited to see the new products, and we will talk with you soon.
Thanks, Scott. Really appreciate it.
Okay, that was great. Always love to see new products from those guys because they always release top quality work. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing what else comes out from them. So leading on to our first discussion point, not so much really a discussion, but I really want to hear from JB and TJ, who had a pretty packed week with 2 model shows in 2 different countries, and both of them picked up some really nice silverware. They even took a special little guy who is a really strong up-and-comer in the hobby, Aaron Cook. Guys, please tell us all about your adventure.
Yeah, I guess I'll start off the party. Yeah, as Jensen, you said, it was kind of a whirlwind weekend, especially arriving back in Denver at 8 in the morning on Monday and going straight to work from waking up at 2 in the morning Mountain Time to leave the folks in Buffalo. But, recapping, it was a really fun weekend. TJ and I and Aaron, as you mentioned, all met up in the great city of Pittsburgh. I'm a little biased when I say that, but it was a lot of fun. The first show we hit was TRICON. It was a smaller show. I say smaller show, but it's not really. It's gotten really good size. They had nearly 400 models on the table. Vendor room was packed. A lot of great deals. And it was super fun because that's the club I grew up with. I mean, a lot of those guys in the club, they knew me before I was even me. They knew my dad, and I remember going to that meeting when I was a kid, and have been a part of that organization. And the Three Rivers IPMS chapter, I give them a lot of credit. I think they are the earliest adopter of gold, silver, bronze in IPMS chapters. So they embraced open judging extremely early. I think it's been going on nearly 20 years, I bet, for gold, silver, bronze. So they recognize the value in that, and rewarding the modeler. And it's just really fun. And I'll turn it over to TJ here in a second. But for those interested, it's located in near McCandless, Pennsylvania, so a little bit north of Pittsburgh. As I said, nearly 400 models on the table, 400 really good models too. Vendor room was packed, a lot of good deals to be had, and just a really fun day. It was held in a school cafeteria, but it was a pretty good sized cafeteria, nice lighting, especially with an all glass window side. It was really great to see old friends and new, and people from all around the area, New York, Ohio, obviously Pennsylvania. Some people from Michigan, West Virginia, they all kind of congregate at this one show because it's central in Region 4. We saw some really good friends like Dustin Diaz, which we'll talk more about, but I'll pause there and turn it over to TJ because I think this was his first time ever going to the Pittsburgh show and first time driving through Pittsburgh as well. And maybe you can talk about how that turned out.
Yeah, funnily enough, that was the first time I've been to Pittsburgh. I don't live that far away from there. The weekend started on Friday. I got off of work, and because of where I was working and where my house is, I was actually able to go home first because it was more or less on the way. It was a little bit, if I had just stopped at the house and left, it probably would have added 40 minutes to my drive, if that. But I got off a little early and went home. I was all packed. I had everything. I forgot a jacket, so luckily I was able to pick one up, and I was gonna get one anyways. Like there was a Target next to our hotel room. But yeah, drove up to Pittsburgh. It was a beautiful drive through Pennsylvania, and I'm kicking myself because I didn't get. And obviously, you shouldn't be doing this when you're driving. I couldn't get my phone out fast enough to take a picture of a really sweet barn on the side of the road that looked just like the barn that Jensen did for his M3 Stewart build. I mean, that might have been a stock photo that he looked at because I was like, that's the effing barn right there. Like that, I could swear that's it. And by the time I saw it and kind of like put two and two together, I was going like 75 miles an hour, and it was like kind of off to the right, and I was like fumbling with my phone. I'm like, oh, I gotta get it, I gotta get it, and then by the time I got it up, I couldn't, you wouldn't be able to see it. So that was a little disappointing. Yeah, uneventful trip, and it's funny because Aaron and I got to the hotel at like the exact same time. He was getting out of his car when I was pulling into the parking lot. We were trying to check in early, which was a little bit of a debacle. We got it eventually. But JB had to buy Wi-Fi service from the airplane to email the lady he spoke to on the phone saying that we could check in early, which she failed to mention when he was on the phone with her before he got on the airplane. And it was the exact same lady. So that was fun. And yeah, I think we picked up JB pretty late and just went back to the hotel room and got ready for bed, cuddled for a little while, and was ready to get going in the morning.
Yeah, the whole check-in process for our listeners. Yeah, that was interesting. I talked to this person on the phone. I said, "Hey, I have my two." No, we can't do that. And then texting with them through free Wi-Fi on the plane, Aaron's like, "You got to email them." And I said, "Okay, I'm buying Wi-Fi, but I'm taking all the soap and probably a towel home with me." Um, but
Was
yeah,
that before or after the cuddling?
that was before because I was
That
in
was
the
before.
air. Yeah.
When you travel, you want to have JB in your corner. Absolutely.
But no, I got in pretty late. They picked me up from the airport, and then Saturday kind of kicked off. Getting in that late, it was essentially for 48 hours of nonstop scale modeling and laughing. We made fun of Aaron a lot, rightfully so. But the Pittsburgh show was really fun. We got there pretty early, and the parking lot was already packed. Got our stuff on the table, and then we actually did some judging, which was a lot of fun. We judged dioramas, and then Dustin swapped in because I had lunch with family to judge some armor. But for our listeners, Dustin Diaz, he's a great modeler. He posts a lot in the Posse group. Big diorama modeler, and it was great to see his stuff up in person. And he took best auto with the Killdozer, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kind of contrary to a best auto piece, but go figure. A tracked vehicle, tanks rule, autos
I
tool.
mean, he should also be an amps master, but you know how it
Yeah.
is sometimes.
Yeah, it wasn't his turn, I guess. So,
Nope.
but that said, it was a fun show, and we all did pretty well. But TJ walked away with some sweet hardware. But before we get to that, I'll also mention, in addition to IPMS Three Rivers embracing the open system, which is really good and helps spread the wealth. They also do a lot of theme awards, and these theme awards, it's honestly a version of the coins and the Mystery Modeler Syndicate or tokens or poker chips, where individuals are rewarding modelers and not necessarily the club. So Pittsburgh does it where essentially I think 12, maybe 15 of their members sponsor awards, everything from, best US Air Force aircraft to best camouflage. And those individuals who sponsor the award actually pick the model that wins it. And it doesn't have to be a gold winning model. So these are very much personalized awards.
Very, very important for Aaron.
Yeah, for Aaron. Yeah. Not a gold model, but still won a special award. It was, we might have coordinated with the organizers and said, "Hey, it's this guy got turned down by Make-A-Wish. Let's make his day." So yeah, Aaron was fortunate enough to win best camouflage with his Yog Panther. I'm just gonna say it was plagiarized from mine, but the keyword we use these days is inspire. So it was inspired by mine. Taught the kid everything he knows. Not bad though. Not bad at all. And then TJ walked away with TJ. I'll just pause and maybe you talk about what you were awarded and what piece, because I think it was the debut of this piece as well.
It was, yeah. Like JB said, it's like gold, silver, bronze. And they award everything, so everything gets judged, everything gets an award. I brought 6 pieces. I got 6 golds, which I think is probably my best. I don't think I've ever got all gold somewhere. So that was pretty
So you'll
cool.
be going back to TRICON next year, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to go back because it's 4 hours from my house. That is doable. That's an easy I can do. I can get off work on Friday, drive up there, spend the night, hang out, and realistically, I could drive back home.
Yeah.
Saturday night if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go into why I didn't want to do that in a little bit, but yeah. And then I won best armor, which is the first time I've ever won a best armor out of any show. I've always tried because I'm an armor first guy, but I've never had best armor. I was pretty excited about that, and it was my Asuka / Tiger Model Designs Sherman 3 Shelf Queen that I started after Omaha, I think, when I met Dave Hobbs, because he helped me do some research on it, and yeah, I started building that. I got back to it the week I had off, which was 2 weeks before the show, and because I hadn't touched it for a year, it had just been sitting there, literally collecting dust. So I finished it off and put it on a little base, to bolted it down, added some crew guys, and yeah, took it. That was the first show I'd been to, and it won best armor. I was pretty pleased with that. It was pretty cool. I was excited.
Yeah, it was awesome. And a lot of other good stuff was at the show as well. I'm trying to, what won best sci-fi, and TJ, I'll let you explain it. It was definitely something Scott would enjoy. And it was best of show as well.
Oh yeah. So the best sci-fi piece, that also won best of show, and rightfully so, was a scratch built Nostromo with ore refinery. It was huge. He said there was no 3D printed involved, which okay, like I don't know why anyone needs to specify that. I don't think that makes it any less impressive, because if you designing stuff with 3D isn't as easy as people think it is. That being said, it was really good. It was really good. It was big too. He said he didn't know what the scale was. Probably could have figured it out if I had measured the Nostromo, because I think that has a Canon size, so you'd be able to extrapolate what scale it was from that. But I want to say the Nostromo on the front of it was probably like this, so probably 4 or 5 inches. So pretty decently sized, but the Nostromo is pretty, and the ore refinery behind it was just huge. When he came walking in with that thing, I was like, "That's best of show right there," because it's big and it's awesome. It's hard to ignore. Yeah, I can't remember if it was lit or not. I don't think it was. But yeah, it was really cool. It was really, really cool.
I saw the photo of it, but you don't really, that's the problem with photos. You don't really get a sense of a lot of the subtleties or the scale of what that is. But that sounds like that was an incredible piece.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know. There was a little thing you could have scanned. I should have scanned it, because I'm interested to know where he got the plans from to do it. Because if anyone remembers Alien, that ore refinery thing that the Nostromo is pulling, or they're like the tug. That thing is really big and gothic looking. It looks like something out of Warhammer 40,000 or something. But yeah, it was pretty badass. I like as soon as I saw it, I was like, man, that is sweet. He did some other like scratch built, kind of more obscure sci-fi stuff too. That was over there next to it. I might have got some pictures of it. That was also really well done. It's just no Nostromo and Ore Refinery.
Was that the show that had the piece that it had some really small armor in it, and then it was kind of in like a Nintendo Game Boy kind of case?
Oh yeah, modern.
Um,
I think it was called Modern Warfare.
yeah, that was really, I love the presentation on that. That
Yeah,
was really
that
cool.
was pretty cool. So we judged dioramas, JB, myself, and Aaron, and that was my second choice. We ended up choosing Kevin Kelly's GI Combat that he built for the
Mhm.
Tamiya 48 scale
Yeah,
group
so
build that we
cool.
did, and it's not just because Kevin Kelly is our friend. That thing is really freaking good. It is
Yeah.
so good. But yeah, the little Modern Warfare thing, that was my second choice. I was like, it's between these two.
Yeah.
But GI Combat's just so good. He like
Yeah.
just absolutely nailed it. It's hard. It was hard to say no to that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, listeners, as TJ mentioned, we know Kevin really well, but that was our first time seeing it in person, and it was totally well deserved. I mean, and that was the best part about, I think, judging dioramas is we had two pieces that, from an execution standpoint, they were good, but the storytelling was off the charts with both. And that's where I really enjoyed the diorama judging aspect was, and it was hard in that regard because each one had such a unique story and approach to building their model. Obviously, Kevin Kelly's with the replication of the cover of the comic book, which, by the way, he's got our names on the freaking comic book in the back. And again, listeners, I want to emphasize that I feel confident in saying that did not influence our decision in this
No.
whatsoever. Like it truly deserved that because it is such well executed. I mean, the colors, the story, like it defines what a diorama should be. And then the Game Boy as well, like that defines what a diorama should be. And it's just apples to oranges in that case. And you could flip a coin. And the little Modern Warfare thing was pretty sweet, like having the Ukraine battlefield with blown up vehicles. And it was just like, man, now I want to steal that idea and do it on
Yeah.
something else. Like it was
Yeah.
Joe from up near the other club I grew up with, about 60 miles north of Pittsburgh. He came from there, but each one was just fantastic. You could flip a coin, honestly.
Yeah, it was a tough decision because, like JB said, yeah, it both were really good. I think the case could be made for both of them
Hmm.
Don't,
if one was chosen over the other one.
yeah, don't. It's not stealing, John. It's inspiration.
That's right. It's inspiration.
Well,
And it lit up because I think
Yeah.
he built it out of a real Game Boy Advance.
Yes. Yeah.
wow.
That he took the LCD screen out and all that stuff, but the little power light still works.
Hmm.
It was pretty cool.
Well, JB mentioned, I want to hear more about this, but it was TJ's first time driving around Pittsburgh, the land of endless bridges. So, what was it like, TJ?
So yeah, to be honest with you, I did not expect Pittsburgh to be as like mountainous as it is. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
Like
Yeah,
I was,
yeah.
I don't know, because the area of it's weird because the area near Pennsylvania where I live, there's mountains. Because, I live a little bit south, really not that far south from Pennsylvania, and I've worked in Pennsylvania in a freaking mountain. So I'm like, I didn't really expect when you get further, because Pittsburgh is pretty far west in Pennsylvania. It's
Yeah.
close, like it's close to the other side of the state. I didn't expect it to be, and I guess mountainous isn't really the right word, but like it looks like it's like cut into the side of a mountain with the river and everything. It was pretty cool. It definitely has character, like it looks like Pittsburgh, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It was pretty neat. I got lost on the way to the show because I took a wrong turn. I was following my GPS, so I got a nice little quick tour of downtown Pittsburgh, down right on the river, and had to get across and go over another bridge to get there. So I was only a couple minutes behind JB and Aaron.
Honestly, it's a great town. I mean, we're joking, but it's very picturesque. You can see why they use it in so many movies. But
Oh yeah,
the vertical railway, which is downtown, which sort of speaks to the elevation that you're talking about. But I went to a Steelers game there 3 or 4 years ago and took a ferry across one of the three rivers over to the stadium, and that was really fun. And it's a great place. Downtown is a really good mix of like a new emerging, kind of 2020, high tech town versus the old steel. John could talk better to that, but kind of the tradition of the old steel town too. The flavor of that is still very much alive in downtown.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed the fact that you got to experience Pittsburgh coming through the Fort Pitt tunnel. You kind of go through the hillside and then you punch out, and the city's right there, and a lot of nostalgia there. So yeah, next year, what I hope to do is, if we can swing it again, I'd love to fly in a day early, and then we can stay where I used to live for grad school in Shadyside and hang out in Pittsburgh and see the town actually, and then go to the show. But yeah, bottom line, the show was awesome. I had a really great time. Shout out to the Pittsburgh guys. They pulled off a hell of a show. It was great to see old friends and my old neighbor that was there, Sean. So all around a lot of fun. And then as soon as that show ended, we blitzed up to Hamilton, Ontario for HeritageCON, which was, when it comes to one day shows, there is nothing that tops it in the world. And yeah, I guess in terms of getting there, 4 hour drive, 4.5 hour drive, dead north. TJ dropped his truck off at a local hotel in Cranberry, Pennsylvania, and then Aaron and him and I all blitzed up north, and we actually made fantastic time. The border was super easy. I mean, TJ, you could probably tell the guy had no interest in talking to us.
That dude wanted to be anywhere else than where he was. Like, although though it was funny when he was like, "How do y'all know each other?" I'm like, "How much time do you have?" Because
Yeah.
it's a long story and it's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah. We met ourselves on the internet. We all live in different places, and we're coming across in a car that's leased to the individual driving, who has a paper form that has our names on it saying that we can be in it. But no, it was simple. And then what we did was we stopped by a English pub in Hamilton, had a nice dinner, and while we were there, we ran into the Mojo guys. They had got there about an hour before us, so it was nice to briefly connect. We saw them afterwards, obviously, at the dojo. They had a sweet Airbnb within walking distance of the venue. But Dave Knights, Mike Basquette, big shout out to them. It was nice seeing them, and even better, first time I think we've really hung out with them. We bump into each other at shows, but it was an opportunity to have some quality time with Mike and Dave, and Chris Sieber was there, model airplane maker was
Yeah,
there.
Chris Wallace,
Yeah, Bruce,
Evan, yeah.
yeah, Evan was there, Bruce was there,
Steve Hustad.
Steve Hustad, Mark Copeland. I mean, John Vitkus even stopped by. So overall, it was just really good to hang out with those folks, and super appreciative and thankful that they let TJ and I and Aaron essentially crash their party and hang out. So the social aspect, Friday night, even before the show was, or Saturday night, I should say, was fun. And then we get into Sunday.
Hold on, I want to talk about
Yeah, fire away.
for Saturday night a little bit real quick. Interestingly enough, and this is pretty cool. Like when we saw the address, we're like, no way. But the house Airbnb they had was on, I think it was like Spitfire Lane. I'm
Yeah.
like, really? Cool. Like that's pretty badass. I'm like,
Very, very appropriate for that
I was
group.
like, that's pretty awesome. And then one of the really funny things that happened that night when we were hanging out, Evan McCollum, Panzermeister 36, was there, and we were just kind of shooting the breeze or whatever, and there's this little carry-on luggage on the floor next to the couch where we were standing, and he's like, "Here, look at this," and he opens it up, and it's full of Tamiya 48 scale M8s, right? The little howitzer based on the Stuart. I was like, what is all this? He's like, so I'm doing a class for amp snats, and there's 25 spots. And I was told by the organizers that they would have their club build all of these models for me. All I would have to do is show up. So I said, that's cool. And he's like, and then a couple weeks ago, they're like, yeah, so we're not going to be able to do that. So we'll just send you all the kits. So they were only able to fit, 18 or 19 in a box. They sent it to him in Canada where he lives. It got slapped with like $140 tariff or whatever that I think they paid it for him. So then he has all these kits that need to be built, but not all of them. So he was like, look, why don't you just send the other ones to Dave Knights in Kentucky? And then Dave would bring them to him. But that still doesn't solve the fact that he's got 25 kits that need to be at least partially assembled. So he's like telling me all this. So he's like, yeah, Dave brought them to me. I'm like, what? And I'm like, credit to Amps. this is a new experience for them. They've not really offered this kind of thing at an apps before, like a paid hands-on demo. So they're learning, right? This is not, again, not malicious on their part. I just want to make that clear. They're trying, they're doing their best, and I appreciate it. However, they still saddled Evan with building all of these kits. So I was like, look, dude, just give them to me. I'll take them. I'll take them home. I think I have 9 of them, 8 or 9 of them. And I was like, I'll get them built. I have a club meeting next month. It's like actually 3 weeks from now. I'll ask, I always get like between 12 and 15 guys show up to our club meetings. I'll bring them. We don't have to fully assemble them. He told me what he needs. I'm like, I'll get them built for you, man. That way, A, you don't have to carry them with you because you've already got all the other ones. And I'll handle these. I'll throw them in a box and I'll just put them in my basement. And when we leave to go up to amps, I'll just bring them with me. He's like, well, are you sure? I'm like, dude, that's a lot of stuff to build. Yes, my club will handle it. And of course, I text all the officers of my club, and I'm like, hey, this is what we need to do. Hopefully, everyone's cool with this. Like, oh yeah, cool. We'll knock it out at the April meeting. So yeah, it was just pretty funny. He just opens this suitcase that there's all packed in there, like he's like smuggling drugs across the border.
I asked him if he paid a tariff because there was freaking
Serious.
I was like, good Lord, man. I was like, what the heck?
I can see the border guy. Why do you need all of these models? That's good. No, that's a great idea, TJ, for your Novamps, right?
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's a bottle of extra thin. Here's some sprue cutters
Yeah.
and a kit. Go sit down,
Well,
that's a
because
great idea.
Our meetings are build meetings, right? Like that's what we do. That's how we hang out. So everyone has building stuff with them. And all we need to do is build the hull without any detail or running gear and the turret. Like that's it. And the thing's like this big. So we can knock in any one we don't get done, I'll just bang out. Like it's not hard. Like it sucks that he got saddled with all that. So Evan's a good guy. So I was just trying to share the burden a little bit.
He's the nicest guy in the whole world. So he's probably trying to figure out like how to say anything about it. It's like,
exactly.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll build these.
Yeah, he's Canadian. He's too nice.
And we almost got Aaron convinced to go to sing karaoke after we were done eating dinner.
Yeah. Also, Aaron found a twin that night with Mark Copeland in their and
Their
Adidas
tracksuits.
Yeah. Mark brought his BTR and they were going to go out and cause a ruckus with the local partisans, but Aaron in his bedtime called it early. So that was Saturday night. That was a blast. The dojo always has the best booze, so shout out to Mike and Dave again for hosting us. A lot of great folks there. And then we rolled over to the show kickoff. So the show opens at 9 o'clock. We show up at 9:02, and we are already in overflow parking, walking across the main parking lot. I mean, we're talking massive, and we come around the corner. Oh gosh, the line was outside. What, TJ? You think there was over 100 people in line outside the building?
Oh, easily. Because
easily,
where you checked in was inside, so you had to line up to go outside, and then it like wrapped around the front of the building.
Yeah, equidistance inside is out, and it's like, whoa. Now, I will say, fortunately, I had a speaking slot there, so texted some of the show organizers, Tim and Alan, wonderful individuals. We snuck in a side entrance to at least get in and put our stuff on the table, and then we went back to the line later in the morning to officially check in. And again, nothing's perfect in these shows. This was the first time they used the digital entry system that was used at the IPMS Nationals in Madison, developed by Jim Coatney and the Madison crew. And major shout out to them. Their system was really good. I think TJ, you'd mentioned it before. The process of actually registering your models was stupid easy.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was all web based. You go to a website and you can upload all your details. And the one thing that was cool is you can add photos.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if the judges can see those photos. I'm assuming they probably could, because when you print out your paper, it's got a little QR code on it. Because it encourages you. The website encourages you to upload build photos and finished photos. So on at least a couple of them, I did both, which was pretty neat. And yeah, it was really easy. Just don't be like me and print them out and then leave them in your truck in Pittsburgh and then have to get them printed out the morning of the show, but the printer at the hotel doesn't work, so then you have to have the front desk print them out for you. That was a pain in the butt. Yeah, my only I guess feedback is having to print them out is annoying, because you go through all this stuff to get the pre-registered to it in like a web app, and then you got to print the stuff out. Okay. I think Bruce was telling me they're still working the kinks out too. Because then all that stuff was like manually entered from the printout, which is a lot of work. Because like at SMC, you don't print anything out. You just walk up and tell them your name, and they pull out your thing and give you little stickers to put on your stuff because they have all the info, all your registration info and all that stuff. And it's super easy. Yeah, I hate printing stuff out. It's just a pain in the butt because I do things like leave them at home.
Yeah, and as we talk about learning, like I said, this is the first time they use this system. I think it went smoothly. It was just a little bit time consuming, the process, and they totally understand it. I think they had one laptop to start, then they added another one, and the line started to move faster. But they know that the bottleneck was at the laptop check-in, and I know they've already like literally before at 10 a.m. in the morning, they're like, okay, yeah, next year we're going to have X, Y, and Z, and they're already thinking about making it smoother. So. But that said, I waited in line about 27 minutes, I think I timed it, and I was at essentially the entry door to the museum. Probably there was 75 people in front of us. So it was it's a fast process. It's just they had like over 1,000 models on the table. So it just takes time. And during the check-in process, they stamped blue and red. Blue meant you're checked in. Red meant a photograph was attached, and just made their jobs easier taking pictures on the floor. So that was easy as pie. But holy cow, the vendor room there is essentially half the hangar. The barrel store up there for us armor modelers, they had all the T-Rex stuff with Canadian prices that were cheaper than American on the sticker, and then you factor in the conversion rate. So you're looking at like a 30-40% discount. So needless to say, I bought a lot of Panther stuff. And then the secondhand stuff there was super cheap as well. The tons of vendors. I mean, crazy amount. And then also just a crazy amount of people. There was over 2,000 attendees at the show. It's the museum's largest event of the year. They have a great relationship with Alan, who is a fantastic individual that helped us out a lot. Just an overall fun trip. I mean, it's so busy that I walked through the airplane side of the hangar once, and that was just to run and go grab lunch. TJ, I don't know if you took time to go see the aircraft, actually.
I did, yeah. I poked around a little bit. I didn't spend as much time as I probably would have liked if I was
Yeah.
there like as a visitor to just the museum. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was maybe right before lunch or right after lunch. I was like, man, I need to go see all these airplanes. So I kind of did a little lap.
Yeah, and in addition to that, they had seminars. I was lucky enough to give one on the place I work, but then there were a couple modeling related ones as well. There was a big Gundam contingent there, which was cool. They had the 501st Legion walking around in Star Wars garb. Overall, 10 out of 10 show. If you're even close to Buffalo or Toronto, you gotta go. I actually I flew out of Buffalo, which was a lot cheaper than Toronto, and it's a little over an hour drive from Buffalo to Hamilton, Ontario. Highly recommended. And then just the camaraderie there is awesome. I saw a lot of old Michigan and Toronto friends.
I think we have a new entry for the JB drinking game, and it was the entry is, and needless to say, I bought a lot of Panther stuff.
Yeah, I bought a lot of Panther stuff.
Well, how did the contest go? And did you and Aaron and TJ bring home any hardware?
Yeah, they felt like bad for Aaron again. I probably I slipped him a toonie to give him an award. But yeah, Aaron did really well. I think his Sherman took gold, if I'm not mistaken.
It did, yeah.
And then
And I think it was post-war
yeah,
armor.
yeah, and then TJ, you did pretty well.
I did. I was batting 500. So I had the same six entries as obviously the show the day before, and I got two firsts and a second out of those three. So I was happy with that. I mean, like JB said, if you bat 500, you're going to the Hall of Fame. So
You're going to the Hall of Fame in anything. So yeah, and then I was lucky enough. I got a gold for the 1340, a gold for my little Hetzer vignette, and then a silver for the Stir Meal. And I was lucky enough to win Best Armor. So I had to, TJ and I flipped a coin. He took TRICON, and then I took HeritageCON. So maybe we'll swap next year. But overall, fun show. And I will also say, there maybe is just different because we weren't leaving and right away, but they did announce everyone at the show. They did have a photo of everyone's model in the award ceremony. and it felt a little bit different. And I think that probably goes to the culture of the show as well, where it was much more social at the end. Gave me vibes of SMC almost in that regard, where people are having those conversations, kind of saying their goodbyes, and then during that time, they're doing the award ceremony with all the pictures of what won. I'll also say what won Best of Show, and rightfully so, was Steve Hustad's diorama of a HE219 owl that was destroyed. And for those of you that don't know Steve's work, he likes to base everything of his off of a photograph, or at least most of his work, especially the dioramas. And that was one that was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, he replicated down to the peeled skin, the color of the burn mark, sculpted figures that I think he uses Prizer as a base, just all around 10 out of 10. And then he had some armor dioramas in 72nd scale as well. He's predominantly a 72nd scale dude. So hats off to Steve Hustad. We should have him on at some point. His work is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, he really is terrific, and I agree. We need to have him on. It's always fun to. I usually get to spend quite a bit of time with him at MMSI. He's just such a talented guy and has such a great attention to detail. Well, what about the speaking of HeritageCon, the Musaru Cup?
Yeah, the Musaru, that's embarrassing. Scott, thanks. I didn't finish mine. Maybe a future topic for the pod is failures, because I failed at mine. I thought I had timed it out well, but honestly, I was 24 hours out of pocket. Like all modelers, we put things off till the end. And I pinch hit on the Musaru, and I actually got to finish it. I'm just really disappointed because I did a base for it. First time I ever did resin pour for water, and it actually turned out really freaking good. The only problem is the label, and what Amazon told me was a 48-hour cure. It's not a 48-hour cure. It's a 72-hour cure, if not a little bit longer, just to make it rock solid. But I peeled one of the plates off because it felt good, so I started peeling it, but one of the corners wasn't fully done, and it just created a really weird splinter effect in the front right corner. And then I just decided to leave it. And then the next day I came back, obviously past the deadline, and popped them off with ease. Actually, this water's amazing. It just needs an extra 24 to 48 hours to fully cure. But outside of that, I will finish it. I have a little figure I got to put on it, and then I'll try to hide the side that cracked. I have a little shark in there too. But outside of that, there was some really good work on the table. Rob Adams had his that was being attacked by some sort of octopus creature. And then I believe it was Terry Measley did it for Scale Model Podcast, and he did a shadow box of the same sort. And then the winner was Tim Holland from the Geeks. He did a kind of like it cresting and listing on the top of waves. And then I think that's a privateer in the background, or a B-24 that was used by the Royal Navy as a spotter. I think it was a B-24 actually, now that I think about it, because it had an H-tail. He did a forced perspective where obviously the sub is 1/72nd, and then I believe the Liberator was probably, I bet, 2/50th, 1/500th scale in the distance. Just really well done. So hats off to Tim, extremely well deserved. And going back, I take solace in the fact that I was not the only one to fail, and specifically fail with water. It's funny, the Scale Model Podcast and Insanity had the same idea, and then lo and behold, Dave Knights and I had very much the same similar idea as well, where his is essentially beached and listing. Mine was just underwater, but talking to him, it was hilarious Saturday night talking to him, because he ran in basically the same problem as me. He did a different product from AK, and instead of just taking an extra 24 to 72 hours to dry, I think it took him at least 4 days to dry. Yeah, so he ran into the same problem I did, and we both failed in that regard, but we had the best of intent to accomplish the mission on time, but the product was falsely advertised. I'll just say we'll blame it on the product. But Dave Knights is, from the pictures I saw, looked really cool, and I hope he finishes it. But yeah, we both missed the mark on that regard, but fun nonetheless.
Well, shout out to you, John. I mean, you kind of picked it up right in the 11th hour, and you tried. It's just like you said, pinch hitting. So we'll catch it again next year, and Jensen is going to be our next victim. He has raised his hand, so he will be our next victim on the Musaru Cup. That's really cool, and obviously, congratulations from all of us to Tim Holland on the win for that.
And that was HeritageCon. Oh, and then we went to a Chinese buffet afterwards. It was actually really good. It was
It
near,
was.
it was in Hamilton. Shout out to Chris Wallace. He had a big reservation for us. Really appreciate that. And yeah, oh gosh, it was great. And then TJ walked out, and we'll end this segment with what TJ walked out of the store with.
Yeah, cotton candy. They had a cotton candy machine right at the front. So when I walked in, I was like, I'm getting cotton candy when I leave here. And when I walked by, yeah, there was a bunch on the little, like little like holder, and I was like, yoink, and took one. It was really good. I love cotton candy. And it's just like sugar. It's hard not to like it. But yeah, it was fun. And then we got in the car and made our way back to Buffalo. But we did do a detour to Niagara Falls, which was pretty cool. 'Cause I'd never been to Niagara Falls, and it was JB's idea. We were driving by, and I was like, "Can we see Niagara Falls like from where we're going?" And like, no. I'm like, oh, okay, that sucks. And we are just like driving. Like 5 minutes later, JB's like, "Well, we could, and it's just you just got to go turn here, and we'll be there." And like,
It's only
sure,
one of
let's
the,
go.
one of the, most well-known eight wonders of the world kind of places. But yeah, we're in the neighborhood. Why not?
Yeah, it was really neat, and it was it was very cool to see it at nighttime because it's all illuminated and stuff. And yeah, the Horseshoe Falls was pretty impressive, and I didn't realize how close you get to it. And like we like walk down there, everything's wet obviously because there's so much spray and frozen, so everything had like glaze ice all over it, like all the handrails and the vegetation all nearby because the air temperature was cold enough probably to freeze, but I was like just like right there. And yeah, we get up there and like look down and like falls are like right there. Like that's it. I think Aaron was like, yeah, you'd have enough time to go over this handrail and be like, oh no, I'm wet. Oh no, I'm falling and I'm dead. And it's like it would be over like that because that water is just it is booking down those falls. It was pretty neat. I mean, I've seen waterfalls before, but yeah, it was pretty cool. I think we were
Yeah,
there for what, like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was freezing.
And then we crossed the border on the Rainbow Bridge, which was super, super easy.
it's just one of my favorite things in the Toronto area. I mean, like you said, TJ, Niagara Falls is really, it's just awesome. The power of that much water, what it does is just, it's really a cool thing to see.
It was super impressive. Way better than the American side. The American side is not nearly as cool.
Yeah, and I'll also mention after Niagara Falls, y'all drove back Monday morning. How was Hobby Express as a first-time patron?
Oh, it was pretty cool. The selection there was really good. The kit selection there was really good, and like you were saying, the consumables was pretty awesome. I've never used it before with like the AK splatter effects, the acrylic stuff, and like
Yeah,
these little tiny jars. I got three colors, like a dark, light, and like a mid-tone. So it's
nice.
kind of sounds like it's got you kind of hear it sloshing around in there. So I'm assuming it's probably in between, like a little less dense than like their diorama ground effects, but
Yeah.
should be cool. I'm interested to try it. I like stuff like this. This is the kind of stuff that I like, and I got some use for it in some upcoming projects. So I was like, yeah, whatever. It's here. I'm gonna grab it.
Yeah. And whatever Aaron bought won't go to, we'll just get it. We'll just get it from his estate sale.
Yeah, Aaron and I had fun driving from Buffalo to Pittsburgh. We had a good time riding his BMW.
Well, Jensen, that was it. It was a good trip. Next year, hope more listeners. Oh, and then obviously everyone we ran into there, Alex, Graham,
Dan,
Dan. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Harvey,
Yeah, Harvey
yeah, Harvey
Lowe.
Lowe, Chris Johnson.
Yep, yep. Chris Johnson was great. A lot, just all the listeners there. I really enjoyed Graham's Yog Tiger and a lot of his work. It was great to meet him in person, chat with him, and as always, these shows there's not enough time to meet the individuals. And at both
Mhm.
locations, we saw a lot of people. And then I believe it was Clay in Pittsburgh had the SU 100 or 85.
Yeah.
He's a listener as well. He was super kind, came up and said hi to us, and then we kind of hung out with him for the day. Awesome work. And I mean, for a guy that's just started not too long ago, he's kicking ass. So major shout out to Clay too.
Yeah, and another first for me, I bought nothing at either show. Didn't
Mm.
buy a single thing. The only thing I bought on that trip, other than food, was those diorama effects from Hobby Express.
And cotton candy.
No, well, that cotton
It
candy
was
came
included.
with it was
Yeah.
included because it's all you can eat.
All you can eat.
So I
And
mean,
there
yes,
was
technically I bought it, but It was included with the price of my meal.
Yeah, there was a 4-plate minimum, we were told when we showed up.
I had
By
3.
Yeah, I had 3
but I
too.
couldn't do 4.
Yeah, I think Aaron had 6 or 7. Now that I think about it.
Cracking. Okay, so we'll head over to Grant for some upcoming shows and events we have.
Okay, SilverCon 2025 will be held in Sacramento, California on Saturday, May 17th at the Town and Country Lutheran Church on Marconi Avenue. Doors open at 9 a.m. and registration ends at noon. This year's theme is 1955 to 1975. More details on the SilverCon Facebook page. IPMS Houston show is May 3rd at the Stafford Center in Stafford, Texas. It's a GSB show, and this year's theme is Bond 007. We have Commies Fest 2025 will be held on April 5th, 2025 at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds, 15200 West 6th Avenue, Golden, Colorado. A lot of us will be there. That's going to be a fun show. AMPS Nationals in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, May 15th, 16th, and 17th is fast approaching. A lot of us are going to be there, including our European contingent will be there with shoes on and ready to go. And then we have the Rocky Mountain Expo, SLC, on June 20th and 21st. And that's about it.
Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about the expo this year?
Yeah, absolutely. We're in the middle of just getting everything now lined up and nailed down. Going to have amazing seminars. Lots of people flying in. Just found out this week, change of plans. A shout out to Jeremy Moore, who's going to be coming out and joining us. So, we're going to have Mr. Bonani. We're going to have Gary Baker. We're going to have, hopefully as many of you guys as can come. It's just going to be awesome. And we've gone from a 1-day show to a 2-day show, and I think that's going to make judging even better and give us time for more seminars and more activities. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, open system, alternate format. It's all about the modeler at the Rocky Mountain Show. Everybody's entries are clearly identified with their name. They're all together. It's just a different approach, and we got great feedback from the inaugural episode last year. People really like what we're doing and what we're building. So if you can be in Salt Lake City June 20th and 21st, come give us a try. I think you'll really enjoy it. Well, now it's time for our feature conversation. We used to call these interviews, but really they're more conversations, and this one is an absolute blast. Wanted to do this for a long time, but we got to sit down with Pete Usher from the Four Corners Modeling Group and really get into kind of Pete's work and what goes into it, and the amazing dioramas that he does and why and how those come together. I was joined very graciously by Spud Murphy, and we just had an absolute blast. This was one of the most fun conversations I've had in a long time. So anyway, I'll quit talking, and here is that conversation. One of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit by way of introduction is the Four Corners Modeling Club. Man, what a group of amazing modelers you guys are. And recently I saw you guys actually had a little demo that you did, or a show that you did, like right at Bovington.
It's fantastic. We see it with a lot of the American shows where, you're at an armor museum or an aircraft museum. So it is so cool to be around all the vehicles. It was great that most of the gang could make it. We were only short of a couple of the guys. So yeah, really, really good weekend. We're all great friends anyway, so we have a lot of fun, a lot of banter, great evening in the restaurant and bar in the evening. And it's just a great way of catching up and displaying the latest work. Because we all live so, some distance between most of us. We have a lot of communication on like social media and our group chats, but it's actually great to see everybody's latest work in the flesh, and it's always so motivating.
And it crosses over, doesn't it? The Bovington show crosses over, because whereas if you're at SMC or Thornbury or one of the other modelling shows. It's but there's only modelers there. But at Bovingdon, it crosses over to be the general public with theirs, and that brings it's a mixed blessing sometimes because they think they can pick stuff up on the table, and it's like a toy. Oh, let me pick this up and play with it. So. That's an interesting angle, but
we had that one guy with the walking stick was just the highlight of the weekend, wasn't he? It was just an absolute car crash. Yeah. It got to the point where we really could have done with those cattle prods from the Jurassic Park film, just to sort of keep them at arm's length. These models are really expensive.
I guess obviously with the general public, you don't know, as opposed to going to a big show, Telford or something. I mean, do the models still get appreciated in maybe different ways as they would at like a show like SMC or Telford?
I think so. They again, because it crosses over, say Bovey crosses over, you've got different people that are looking at stuff. You've got families that are there that maybe run into the Tank Museum day. Just they didn't know the model show was on. They've just come in anyway, just to families do. So, but it's interesting to see that. I think you get a mix. You get your hardcore model makers that are really interested on an interior scratch build, or one of Spud's sort of larger scale things, and they're particularly into the details, all the way through to young kids looking at stuff. It's maybe the first time they've really seen that sort of stuff, and so it is nice to mix with the general public and get that different perspective as opposed to SMC, Telford, or KMK.
Yeah, certainly as Pete said, I'm talking about my own models, but when you've got the other modelers looking, they're interested in how you weathered this and how you did a certain effect. But the general public, they notice the things like the baseball bat or the baseball glove or mitt, and they notice all those little details. So it's interesting how the two genres of people are looking for very, very different things on a particular model or diorama.
Yeah, kind of wondering, maybe at a museum like Bovington, people probably are tending maybe to focus in on the tanks, right? Because of the surroundings versus maybe some of the storytelling or some of the diorama elements.
I don't know really, because I think if you can get that storytelling angle right, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are. If you look at something like a painting or a sculpture, you can look at it, and if you immediately think, "Oh, crikey, I see what's going on there," then that pulls people in as humans, because it is very much the human story, which is something that I try and work with, a human element, with a sort of an emotional kind of kick. So if we could, that crosses over. I think if you see something that does have a story, I mean, talking about my stuff, if it has a story, then oh wow, that's it can pull people in. But I think people can also look at, say, John's Achilles, because it also has a story in the Sherman with a baseball bat. There's human life within it because of the human elements. If it was a bare tank, okay, great, there's a tank, like the tanks at Bovingdon. But when you see one that's all kitted up, especially in Spud scale, where you can see all the catcher's mitt, and you can see all the little straps and the grass and all the little things more than you can at 135th, the story is within that which pulls you in. So storytelling, actually, if we talked about that earlier on, Spud scale stuff and Kev Smith stuff, it's got just as much story, but it's a different way of telling it.
Yeah, it was something we were talking about, wasn't it? That, with 35th, for example, you build a diorama, and that's the picture frame is the scene, and then you look at the individual vehicles, where with the 16th scale, because it starts to become impractical to have a diorama with a 16th scale vehicle, so you make the vehicle the diorama, and all the individual items on the vehicle become the storytelling items, that in 35th scale, they would be the figures or the building or the individual, like push bikes and stuff. So yeah, you try and make the empty cases and a boot with laces undone, or like Kev's got a bucket with potatoes in on his 251, and it's just all those little things that you spend as much time looking around the vehicle to spot things in 16th as you would do to look around a diorama in 35th scale.
Yeah. And as we spoke about, maybe at Bovey, or God knows when, that when 1/16 scale launched back in the day, it was really cool and that, but it flopped. But now, because the 3D printing and the aftermarket infrastructure that's around it, you've got all those tiny things that just make it all sing and come alive. Whereas before, unless you was going to scratch build loads of stuff, it's all kind of available, jerry cans and grease guns. And I mean, the Dave Parker's 3D printed stuff is just next level, isn't it? Yeah. So with all that, I just think even I'm tempted to move to Action Man scale.
It's a sign you're getting old, mate.
I'm glad we've kind of come down this road, Pete and Spud, because something I really wanted to talk about. And I think, when I look at your work, the piece of yours that, from pictures on the internet, I haven't seen it yet. Hopefully this fall, I'm going to be over there. But Profit and Loss is a diorama that really just speaks to me. I mean, I just look at it and it evokes a lot of emotion. And when people are kind of debating is modeling art and whatever, to me, kind of what defines whether something is art is if it elicits some kind of emotional response, irregardless of the medium. Maybe if you could talk about maybe that piece and how it came together and the story behind it.
Yeah, it was a few years ago I did it now, actually. And I can't quite remember how the idea came about. And I mean, the story that I've kind of where everything started for me. Obviously, I've been modeling since I was about 4. So I've always been modeling and always done, 1/35th scale or aircraft, everything. I kind of move around in the hobby. But dioramas is something that seems to fit really sort of well with me. And but so I'm quite artistic overall, and I was doing some. Just to slightly digress, I was doing some oil painting. I said to my wife one Christmas, "I'm going to do some oil painting. I've seen some YouTube stuff. Looks fairly easily. So let's for Christmas, can you get me a canvas and some paints and all that sort of malarkey?" So sure enough, on Christmas Day, there's some basic sort of an easel and some canvases and some oil, some of the local hobby shop. So I did one painting and that came out fairly well. Then I did another painting and I thought, that's come out really good. I think that's really good. And a few people that saw it, they said, "Oh, that's really good." So I thought, I wonder if I can sell it. So I took it to an art dealer's in an art shop fairly close. And I phoned the guy up, said, "Do you mind if I bring it in?" He said, "Yeah, fine." He said, "Chances are I probably won't buy it because, I tend not to buy art off the street, so to speak. We have certain more famous type people." So I took this piece in again, and it's my second piece, and I thought it's cool. So I unwrapped it in the shop and I kind of put it down on that big sort of table. And he looked at it and he looked at me and he said, "You've done it." And I was like, "I've done what?" He said, "You've made me feel something." And I'm like, "What's sick? You gonna vomit? What have I made you feel?" So because it was like a forest at night, and it had like an orangey glow thing going on, and he said, "I've looked at this painting, and it's made me feel fright, sort of fearful." So you could interpret the glow that is a forest fire. He said. So he said, if you can make someone look at any painting and feel an emotion, fear, love, whatever the emotion is, he said, then you've done it. And I kind of thought, okay, fine. Anyway, he didn't buy the painting, but I actually did sell it. But that's what kind of put the hook into me with my dioramas, because I thought, if I can get someone to have an emotional reaction to one of my projects, then I've done it. That's that human connection that we talked about earlier on. So I did where it all started with the childhood diorama with a kid on the rubbish dump, and there's a guy at SMC and he cried when he saw it, which is an incredible reaction, because he had actually been out in Sierra Leone or somewhere and he'd seen these kids on the rubbish dumps, and he said, "Wow," really kind of blew his head off. And then the elephant was a kind of emotional evolution from that, because elephants are such emotionally intelligent animals. I think, and I remember seeing a documentary years and years ago about, and there's some elephants and there was no water and there was a drought, and the elephant had a baby and it was walking along, trying to get to its next watering hole, and the baby collapsed, and the mother is walking backwards and forwards. Does it go with the herd to find the water? Does it stay with its baby? Anyway, it just lay down with the baby and just decided to die with the baby elephant. And even to this day, it makes me sort of think, Jesus, so they're such maternal animals. And then again, I think I saw a documentary on elephants, the ivory trade that still goes on, and I think it triggered from there really. And it's a very interesting piece to do because, of course, it's only a part of an elephant. So it's you think how much can I cut this down to tell a story? How much smaller can it be? So I try and get it to that right point where it is small enough to focus the story, but big enough to not seem like what's going on? Is that just a chopped off head? What's going on there? And that's where when I sculpted the elephant that you could see enough, because what it did was I got that much elephant in the diorama. I mean, it's funny because now I'm trying to process it in my head. I'm trying to break it apart. So I remember working out scaling the elephant, and you have to have a certain amount of the elephant to give the scale of the size of the animal, and then to give the scale against the Maasai warrior, to show how small he is compared to the elephant, and then also obviously the severed tusks, and how gory, because Christ, and that's also another one is researching. When you research this kind of subject, I mean, something you have no idea really what's happening, but now they actually use chainsaws and they basically cut the front of the elephant's face off to get the ivory that's inside the cheeks. And when you start looking at that, you just think, oh my goodness gracious, it's so horrific, absolutely horrendous. But there's also balancing the gore of what's happened. The tusks have been removed. So I kept it certainly wasn't going to be what the story was about. And then that emotional connection then between the human's head touching the elephant's head. And I think that's just something that, me, Spud, I'm a big hugger. Everyone gets a hug. Do you know what I mean?
It.
So
it's definitely that thing of less is more, isn't it, with that scene?
Yeah.
Because if you'd have gone down the gore route, it loses that impact.
Forget it, yeah.
Because people just go, oh yeah, and you see it on dioramas where there's people blown apart and stuff like that, and you tend to, as a diorama, you just kind of go, oh dear, and you kind of it's the sort of thing we all probably did with dioramas when we were kids doing them, and you saw a leg off and just have lots of gloss red, post office red blood everywhere. So like you said, if people look at it and it triggers an emotion, and I think like I don't want to sculpt something like that and do all the research. It's something you almost want to kind of cover your eyes and put your fingers in your ears and pretend it doesn't happen. But when you're sculpting it, it's so personal, and it definitely has an effect. And if just one person looks at that diorama and it triggers those emotions, that they either contribute to a wildlife fund or something, then the personal challenges you've had to take on board it are worth it, because someone else is deciding to do something, actually do something about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject as well, because and also, and I think I've chatted to a few of the lads about it, is in my innocence, I thought an elephant's feet on the bottom would be smooth, because the only time I'd ever seen the bottom of an elephant's foot was in the zoo. But that's because they walk around on polished concrete floors all day. But real elephants' feet are super gnarly. They're all like chunks and chipped away, and it just looks like it's like the bottom of a horrible foot. It's like the skin is super gnarly. So you have to sculpt those sorts of details. So there is always a learning to stuff like that, isn't there? Where you understand. Whereas if someone said to me, wouldn't the bottom of the elephant's foot be smooth? You go, oh no, it's not actually, because of the terrain they go in. So it was, and also with that diorama, the splash of red of the Maasai warriors.
Unique thing, or his robe.
His robe, yeah, his robe was the was where I substituted the blood of the elephants. I wanted to get a big, a pop of red onto it without the gloss red post office, Humbrol red number 4 all over it. So it's getting that, and I suppose that is just artistic talent, if you want to call it that, is having that balance and understanding to try and really understand composition of colors as well as visuals, isn't it? It's the full 360 of composition. It's
Exactly.
I'm quite fascinated by it.
Yeah, it's very difficult to explain, though, isn't it? When someone, it's almost like it comes sort of natural, and it is difficult to explain, and try and break it down, isn't it? If only people could see what you're doing.
I thought that color choice was really, for me, really reinforced the relationship between that Maasai warrior and the elephant, and his grief and his probably outrage and anger at what had happened. And I think the piece really, I mean, the color really kind of helps convey those emotions, as well as, like you said, that the heads of the two figures in the scene. So really a beautiful piece.
Because of course the elephants are basically the color of the earth around them, because they're so covered, they cover themselves in dust. So they're so muted, they're not really a gray elephant. It's pretty much an earth colored elephant. But then also the title, Profit and Loss, because in the documentary that I saw, it talks about actually the guys who are stealing the ivory, killing the animals. They're also trying to make a living. That they're obviously, their situation is pretty. They're not in the best of places to live in the world, and it's a great way to earn lots of money through a horrific act. So it kind of gave the balance of actually profit and loss, because it's a global loss for the planet, but the profit, the economic profit of the poachers, because there's hardly lots of jobs in that part of the world that are going to pay good money if you're running drugs or ivory. So it also gave that balance of profit and loss, because people could easily look at it and say, well, where's the profit? But the profit is the ivory, and the loss is the animal and everybody. So yeah, it's an interesting piece, actually. And I don't know whether I'll ever be able to repeat something like that. There's a few things bubbling around in my brain that might make it out on the long conveyor belt of dioramas to be built in my head. But yeah, it's an interesting piece. I love it as well.
There's so many of your pieces that are inspiring, but maybe Spud, if I can, maybe put you on the spot a little bit. What's one of Pete's pieces that maybe speaks to you more personally, and that you really like?
I'm sorry if I forget the names of the dioramas. The rubbish pile with the little lad on the top of it. I've been to Sierra Leone and witnessed it all firsthand. And when people say they've got nothing, these people genuinely have nothing. And that's very, very emotive. And I guess the old classic is The Mind the Gap. It's just a brilliant title. It goes against all convention because everything's parallel to the edges, where normally, if you get any book on how to make dioramas, it's always about the angles and balance and this, that, and the other. But it goes against all of that. And there's so many very, very subtle things. It's like, Pete and I have talked about it. The two figures that, the guy who's obviously, been wounded, there's this little patch of like light around, or shadow around him, I think, isn't it? And
it's shadow around his hand as you view it.
That's it.
It's a dark patch behind his hand. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's and I think it's those things you probably, when you're doing that, you do it's something only you think, I'm the only one who's going to notice this, because you do it for yourself, don't you? It's probably like a lot of film directors will put a tiny little thing in a film that no one else will pick up on, but it's just, they do it for it's what they enjoy, is adding some personal little touch. And I just love that there's so many in that scene, and it's just, it's so clever on so many different levels. And
thanks, mate. Yeah.
Well, technically, the way everything's painted, how it all ties in. Sometimes you see dioramas where the vehicles are almost a different style to the figures, and it's not all like uniform, for want of a better term. But it's all got that gritty feel about it. The wagon, the locomotive, and it's just fantastic, and like a thoroughly deserved competition winner. And then you literally chuck it in a jiffy bag to travel it around anywhere.
Oh no, he doesn't.
Oh, it's a
No.
nightmare. Honestly,
Oh.
he's honest to God.
Not true. That's not true. But I did. It goes into a plastic box. But like what I think Spud's talking about is, I was leaving a show and I kind of semi-dropped the box. I was like, oh God, and I'm like, oh, this one needs fixing. Everyone else around me is horrified, like I've dropped the Holy Grail, and I'm a bit like, oh, that'll be all right. I'll sort it out.
Well, hopefully, when you come to see it, Scott, I know what Pete will do. It's such an iconic piece of work, and you'll be looking at it, and Pete will just shove it at you and just say, oh, have a look at it, and you kind of go, huh, because you know how much has gone into this, and it's just like, have a look, and you're kind of like holding it like it's nitroglycerine or like,
I think that's something else which is interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, I wouldn't let that bloke at Bovey hold it, but obviously I think I can get a sense of people fairly quickly on who's who, and if I remember there was one of the lads from the Sprue Cutters and Jensen, and he was talking, or maybe it was the train, and I just said, yeah, there you go, hold it, get a look at it, and he was literally shaking holding it. But I think because it's only a model, and I know you're gonna do anything crazy, because the language that you've used before I've given it to you to hold is you really, really like it, and it's almost like I could hand you my baby and you're not going to start swinging it above your head, but you're going to look at it, and because you know what you're looking at, you can really kind of have a look at it. And I gave Jensen my Panther to look at, and he was just, because he can hold it and look at it, and that's what we want to do, isn't it? We want to look at it from the back and have you done that around the mud guards or whatever? So not the bottom though. No, not underneath. No, not underneath. I think I knew he was going to talk politics. That's drifted into that world, isn't it? Yeah, that's.
Jensen told us that story, and you could hear the fear in his voice when he talked about you handing him that piece, and just being so afraid. But I mean, that, like you said, that shows that he values and understands what it is that you put together. On Mind the Gap, how did that start out? I mean, obviously you've got an idea that comes together. Maybe walk us through, but how much of that is sketched out in your head when you start versus how much do you let that piece grow and evolve and kind of come to you as you put the elements together?
Okay, so if we go through Mind the Gap from conception, so what's the famous painting where the two hands are reaching out and the fingers are just about to touch? I can't remember the name. Yeah. It always escapes me. There's the two like gods just about to touch, and their fingers are just.
Is that Michelangelo's?
Michelangelo's.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, that's it. And so I was at work and a bit bored. The office was empty, I think, and I had a big chunk of blue tack, and I kind of was playing around, and I made some 1/35 scale blue tack men, super rough. Literally each one took about 30 seconds to kind of squidge. And I had some little boxes on my desk or whatever. And I kind of started playing around with these blue tack men. Going, oh, that's cool. Just, having a bit of a sort of mental break. And it kind of came, and I sort of looked at it, and I kind of thought, I could have a bloke there on the floor, and he could be getting to his mate, like the Michelangelo stuff. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And it was just, before you know it, I made half a dozen blue tack men, and it's kind of like started to really evolve on my desk, at work. And I'm kind of thinking, that is cool. So I remember coming home, my son Harry, I said, I've had a cool idea for a diorama, and I took some pictures on my phone actually of the blue tack men, and he was like, oh, that'd be a good idea. And then another element that had sort of come in, I think that's what also happens is psychological elements. They're floating around. It's a bit like air traffic control. All these ideas are flying around differently, but then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 of them come into land. Michelangelo thing, the blue tack men, and then it was the the battle at Kolberg, where the Germans were trying to get out through the port, and there was a battle around the train station. The train station had changed hands like 3 or 4 times in one day. And because the actual event at Kolberg of the guy being trapped in between the wagon and the engine, of course, is made up. But the battle was real, and that sort of stuff happens. And I think that's where those ideas all came into land at the same time. And that's how the psychological configuration happened. So Scott, I'll send you the Blue Tack men pictures later. Then you can see.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you, and you could crikey. It'd be quite interesting to look at it compared to the actual diorama. So yeah, that was the basic concept. And then I love to kind of push the boundaries in everything in life. I'm kind of thinking, the parallel lines and dead ground. And is that true? Can I change that? Can I break that? How does that work? Can I cross that line without crossing it too far that it doesn't work? A bit like the elephant, a bit like the kid on the rubbish dump. When you put that out at SMC, I thought, I don't know how that's going to go down, but I think it's cool. So see what happens. And I genuinely put childhood down at SMC. I just plonked it down and walked off. And I thought, I don't think anyone will even notice it. That's what I genuinely thought, because it kind of went out the back a bit. And I thought, I don't think anyone will even notice it. And so I was in standard then, and that got best of show. Standard, best of show. So with the train, again, it's breaking those parallel lines. And even though actually it is parallel, they're actually not parallel. They do slightly angle in, just slightly to close, if anything, to close the story just a little bit. And then there's the water pipe thing that fills it up, and the coal and the wheelbarrow, which actually stops the whole parallel line thing, because it creates almost a backdrop, a curved backdrop, like a stage. But people say, oh my God, you've broken the parallel lines rule. But I think, no, I haven't actually. I've just created a stage backing for the main event, which is in the middle, and then the cast either side is feeding into that. So actually it is parallel lines and there is dead ground, but the dead ground creates isolation, which is that emotional connection. And then the parallel lines also create the gap, which enhances the isolation, and it frames it so nicely in the middle. And like Spud said, with the dark patch behind the hand, because the hand from the Michelangelo thing was so important that the hands are reaching for each other. I always look at it from the angle that it will be viewed on the table. So when I'm looking at it, I was thinking the hand doesn't really stand out quite how I want to. So there's no snow, and that's where it's a dark patch behind it, because it's just to make that hand pop out. It's I think, and that's those emotional intelligence layers that you think, because I want the story to punch you straight in the face. Shit, what's happening here? And there's no like, oh, what's happening here? If you stood looking at a diorama for a couple of minutes, you're still trying to work out what's happened. And that's actually a whole new subject, isn't it? There's dioramas and storytelling, and then there's a scene. If you get a tank, a tank on a bridge, there's some people walking along next to it, that is a scene, and that can be really, really good, and that can be great. But there's no storytelling. It's not like, oh,
it's just a moment in time, isn't it?
It's just a moment, as a tank going over a bridge. All right, great. But I like you to look at my stuff and go, oh, hello. Oh, And I think it was Bill Horan. He was having a chat with someone about the nun diorama. And he said it's all about, if you judge with your feet, and people notice it with their feet, because when they're walking along the table, looking at stuff, but then when your feet stop and you look at someone and say, oh, here we go. Here we go. What's this? That, he said, then something's happened. So he said, be aware. I think this was the judging, that was in the judging briefing at the World Expo, when it was at SMC. And he said, if something stops you in your tracks, he said, it's probably a gold. And obviously Bill Horan's an absolute legend from back in the day. And reading his book, his masterclass book, was the start of my whole sculpting stuff, there and then really. So the train diorama was an amalgamation of lots of different ideas. And I think I've never articulated it like that before, with the air traffic control of ideas that's going on, and just 3 or 4 of them come into land at the same time. And they think, that makes that, here we go. We got something that should make people stop. And I think, my all the years of model making has built up. So now I can pretty much see it in my head, and I can make it happen in plastic and putty, and I can get it out and go, yeah, that was what was in my head. You know,
I think it's a huge, to be able to do that. It's one thing to have the idea, but to turn that from a thought into reality, it's like, I know some countries and stuff, like obviously model making is classed as an art form. I know the UK, it's still, people just think of like Airfix. But when you're looking at, you've not only got to sculpt it, which is an art form on its own, come up with a creative idea that is visually stimulating, and to be able to paint it all and create all of those features. Even just constructing a diorama to make the surround, the sides and stuff like that. There's so many sort of skills that we kind of don't think about, and there's so many ideas I've got, but I can't sculpt figures, so they put a stop on me. It's so awe-inspiring that be at that point where you go, right, I've got all the tools I need in ability wise, and then the only thing stopping you is your imagination, not physically
almost
paint and sculpt. Very envious.
I'm really struck by the deliberate actions, the deliberate decisions that are made. Going back to kind of my original question, I kind of wondered how much of this was, I don't know. You hear some artists talk about happy accidents, right? Or something that happens. But Pete, I'm really struck by the deliberate actions of the space between figures, or as you mentioned, the parallel lines and the original inspiration of the painting from Michelangelo. But it's really fascinating to see how that vision develops, but then, as Spud said, more how that is executed once you have that vision.
Yeah, it is. I'm lucky. I'm lucky, and thank you. I am lucky enough to have. I love armor. I love figures. I love dioramas. So I'm not saying any of them individually would be award winning, but together it kind of works as a storytelling. So it's I'm envious of just a guy's, say for instance like Lester, when he'll put some armor out. It's just so magnificent. And whereas his armor modeling is amazing, like his Abrams. And I was talking to him about his mud on the Abrams. But so I am lucky enough to be able to be at a good enough standard in figures, in dioramas, in armor, and in storytelling and composition, that I can kind of pull it all together. And through hook and by crook, it kind of go. People tend to say, "Yeah, I like that a lot," and I go, "Oh, that's cool then."
So I have a multiple choice question for you here. Would you describe your work primarily as accurate, impressionistic, or authentic, and why?
Accurate, impressionistic, and authentic.
Wow.
I just got to see from The Office when he's doing the appraisal, and he's like, always saying, "Can you use your computer?" Yes, no, don't know. Keith from account. Do you know what? I think I strangely have to put a tick in all of their boxes.
All above.
Yeah, all of the above. Don't know. So accurate, that you have to tick a big box in accuracy, because if you're doing oak leaf patterns on the uniforms, and say for instance, if we go back to about the train, as you mentioned it, when I didn't know anything about trains, and the
liar, I've seen you at the end of Swindon platform on the station.
Here comes a BR82. The inside, there's a hole in the back of that train, the BR52, whatever it is, because that's where the tender connects and they feed the coal through. So when I built the kit, I thought, what's a bloody great hole in the back of the cab? And I didn't want to have the tender attached, because then the guys couldn't fit in there. So you have a choice. Do I just make a milliput curtain that goes across there and sort of, tick in the box? That would have probably saved me about 2 months, to be honest. Or do I look inside? Do I find out what the inside of a cab of a train looks like, a steam train, and recreate it? So again, you go on Google, you start looking, thinking, oh my God, there's so many little dials and various stuff. And there is a fundamental interior to that train kit, the Dragon train. So then I went to I'm lucky enough in Swindon, there is Swindon's famous for trains. There's this railway museum, like a steam railway museum, full steam. And I went there and I could go in and really have a look and get a feel and a smell for what the inside of the cabs are like. So you realise, wow, it's so intricate and there's so much going on. So to tick the accuracy box, I thought, let's go that next layer in. Whereas rather than have the Magisculpt milliput curtain, if you look through the back of the hole in the train, you can look and you think, oh, he's done the inside of the train as well. Because some people, that blows their heads off. They're like, and I love taking the top of the roof off, saying, oh, in there. And people are like, I love it. I just love it how you've gone the next layer on, because that's what they want to see, isn't it? So accuracy, I do love accuracy in stuff, because you have to, if you're gonna put stuff out at SMC, if you're going to judge in masters, you have to be accurate. But also, I quite like a bit of sci-fi to be able to get away from accuracy and can be more creative. I've got some sort of an MAK camel going on at the moment, and because that's cool, and I'm converting that into something. I'm just playing around with some stuff there, because it's like you have to be realistic, but you don't have to be accurate, So that's the impressionist. Again, you have to tick a big box in that, but that does contradict accuracy. But there is artistic license, which you need to kind of say. For instance, I don't know whether what happened around the train station in Poland, but so there is. You can use artistic license to fill in a bit of a gap there. Is that really true? And you will get people that might say, "Oh, they never would have had two. No German soldier would ever carry 2 water bottles." And it's like, well, as we've all seen. Me and Spud were both in the military, especially in a combat situation, which I've never been in properly. Things soon go completely. People start freestyling. Before you know it, people are wearing trainers and they got camel packs, and people like in the Ukraine, it's a complete freestyle, isn't it? And that's what happens is, so people say, oh, we'd never carry 2 water bottles. Why not? Do you know what I mean? I used to carry 2 water bottles when we're squashing. So I'm a very delicate fan. And what's the last one?
Authentic, just where maybe combining those 2 elements a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, again, you have to be authentic, and then you could sort of change that with being original, because I always try and be completely original, I think. And there's nothing worse. Again, me and Spud and the boys have talked about this. There's nothing worse. Oh, no, not nothing worse. But if you look on a diorama and you see 3 or 4 Alpine figures, you kind of go, and see Alpine figures. You can't help but do it. Now, I've seen some great Alpine figures painted really well, and you think if you can paint a figure, you can build a diorama like that. You could easily sculpt a couple of new arms, because it doesn't take much. A new head, a few change of arms, just to change the dynamic of that figure, and you don't know what it is. I think the only figures now that I would use out the box are the Arto ones, because they're so good. That I looked at them at SMC, the Hetzer crew, and I thought I would build a Hetzer and put those 2 crew figures in it, just because they are so good. So I think apart from that, though, you've got to try and be original. If you want people to stop and look at stuff and say, that's cool, I'm not seeing, that's not an out the box tank with 4 Alpine figures. Well, that's great, but we've seen it before. It's not gonna stop people, and it's quite nice to stop someone to look at that and go, yes, like the baseball bat on Spud Sherman. It's the little things like that. They go, oh, that's cool. I've not seen that before, and that's pushing the hobby, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, bringing an individual element to the piece. And that was my next question I wanted to ask. This is actually for both of you, but you guys inspire a lot of people. Your club is very well known, and both of you are incredible artists, as well as Dan and Kevin, everybody in your group. But when you go to a show or when you are at a competition, what is it about a model or a piece that really draws you in? Is it the build? Is it the technical part of it? Is it the finish? Is it the storytelling? I mean, what is that one thing that's, to kind of put it in your terms, Pete, that stops you in your tracks and makes you look at it and go, wow?
Yeah, I think it's a fairly easy one, because I was judging at SMC last year, and Marcus Ericsson had done this panther with a kitten crab, and everything about it absolutely stunning. the figure painting, the vehicle painting, the diorama, the composition, the storytelling, tick, 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 tick. And that's where, he's ticked all the boxes. So that's where it stops me in my tracks. And I can see, that's really good. Because also you might see something and go, oh, that's good. And then you look at it and you go, oh, actually, it's not that good. But it's definitely, he's on his way. It's interesting because judging the perception, the downside of judging can be, I don't see it as at all, is the Sunday morning and you've got people that are saying, oh, why didn't I get a silver? How come that's got a gold and I've only got a silver, whatever. But I absolutely love it. I absolutely love speaking to people like that, especially if you've got people that have got a highly commended, let's just say, or nothing. And they're saying, how can I transition from where I am now to that? I don't know what to do. So I did it multiple times on the Sunday morning at SMC. You get the guy's project, and say he's done a tiger tank with a couple of figures. And say, okay, fine. What did he get? Got highly commended. Okay, great. And he's a bit like, I was hoping to get a bronze or whatever. And you're like, yeah, okay, fine. That's great. That's what you thought. But let's just this. So what I'll do is I'll quite often put it next to, and I'll physically move stuff around, which again people don't tend to do. But I just kind of think, come on, let's have a look at it. Let the dog see the rabbit. So then I'll get Marcus's. I use Marcus's if he's listening. Well, hello, Marcus. I get Marcus Panther and I put it next to the tiger and I go, okay, great. And I point out what mate has done really, really well. And I say, okay, this is a top end gold, because again, when you're judging, it's so hard, especially in master, to try and divide stuff up. You get kind of bottom end gold. Is it a silver, high end silver, or is it a bottom end gold? Even though there is bronze, silver, gold, there's no high end silvers. It's not broken down. But just for us as judges to psychologically break stuff up and say, it's a top end silver, but it's not quite a bottom end gold. So again, you can get the other guys, Tiger, and put it next to Mark, says, okay, this is top end gold. This is Formula One. This is as good as anything else on this table. And I say, right, let's look at, you've painted a bag on the side of the tiger. It's got a bag on it, right? Okay, great. And I say, how long do you reckon it took you to paint that bag? And they say, about 10 minutes. You go, all right, great. And I say, have a look at the seat on the back of the kitten crab. And on the back seat, which you can't even see as you turn the diorama around, it's all crisscrossed with the fibres of the seat. And there's some delicate stains on there. And there's a little bit of there. I think there might be, some little bits of mud scuffs where his feet have been going. And I say, okay, that probably took him about 2 weeks to do that seat. 2 weeks of evenings. I don't know how long it took him. And I say the difference between what you've done and what he's done is only time. That is the difference here. If Marcus had 10 minutes to paint the back of that seat, it looked like that. So you're no more skilled than he is. He's more experienced. But the difference is he's taken more time to go deeper and deeper into it. And he's thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And that's what's made, and he's done that everywhere. So I said, what I want to do is the guy that got, say, highly commended for his tiger. And I put it down to him as steps. And I said, you got highly commended. So between you're on, say, step 20 from 0. But Marcus is on step 80, trying to get to step 100. And between 20 and 80 is 60. Is that right? And yeah, is that right? What is it?
Or do sums me.
Yeah, but the difference is, because you've looked at those details, what you can do is by next year, you'll actually, by having this feedback and looking at it and seeing how it fits together, when you come back, you'll be on step 32. And I said, when you come next year, I'll be there. I said, grab me and say to me, Pete, what do you reckon? And I'll go, well, yeah, I can see what you've done. And you can see that transition of steps. So quite often years ago, when I'd go to Euro Militaire back in the day and put stuff in the competition and get nothing, it'd be really, it would be really difficult to tell how come showing that people will be saying, oh, just some nonsense. You would never really get any structure out of anyone. Some lads you would, but some others would just be nonsense because they didn't really want anyone to get any better. But
knowledge was power back then, wasn't it?
Knowledge is power, but knowledge shared is what's really powerful. So, and to break it down and show someone a back seat of a or some cloth on a diorama and say, that's what you need to do to roll everything out. Now, you ain't going to go from step 20 to step 80 in a year. Just you could, but you're probably not going to. If you can go up to step 35 in how time taking and what's going on, and because you maybe get some better brushes, then in the next 5 years, there's no reason why you couldn't be doing that top end gold. But you also have to understand that do you really want to spend 2 weeks painting that seat? Because if you don't, and that's not what you enjoy about the hobby, then still put stuff in the competition, and it'll always be, maybe you might get a bronze, or if you always lift the same weight at the gym, you're never going to get any stronger. Bench press 20 kilos for the next 10 years, your muscles never going to get any bigger. You have to put on another plate, or you need to be harder, demand more, want more, build more, refine more. And then that's how you evolve. And sometimes it can really be annoying. I'm not going to say pissed off. You can be really annoying because you're always trying, and myself, Spud, and all the lads at Four Corners, we're all trying to do better and make those steps up and refine what we do. And I mean, the Phantom, Spud, I've got the Vietnam Phantom. I'm redoing that color scheme on there because the pilots are great, everything's great. Because I know aircraft modeling will force me to have more finesse. So if you push yourself into other genres, then you learn stuff more and you kind of become uncomfortable, because if I went into fantasy figure painting, I'd be rubbish. Well, I'll probably be fairly excellent, to be honest. But that's a joke. Yeah, but if I went into fantasy painting and put it in the competition, I wouldn't get anything. So, but if I stayed in there 5 years, I'd probably be doing all right. And then you can steer back into armor modeling where your comfort zone is, and then you can take it up another level. So it's almost like trying different sports or different exercises to keep pushing the boundaries of your core. Like I'm getting quite close to finishing this Panzer IV dio that I'm doing at the moment, and then I've got into aircraft because I'm doing this Phantom. So it's nice to push the boundaries and change the genres just to force yourself to improve. I don't know if that was an answer or just an absolute babble. Did that make any sense?
It was interesting. It was kind of like Martin Kovac was saying the same about where he was doing, obviously, the night shift stuff, where he had to keep swapping and changing just to keep his interest and his motivation.
Yeah.
Doing it. And it keeps the fire burning, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because you can get a bit stale, and it's and you can have a certain style, can't you? You can definitely, I mean, people can say, I can tell that's your work. I love your style. I'm a bit like, I'm quite bored of my style, to be honest. I quite like to do something a bit different. But you can't get away from it. You just because it's the palette, and, so it's cool. But, Spud, your turn to answer. I don't know how we got there. What stops us in our tracks? What do we like and stuff?
Well, Pete's just, Scott's just given me, we're running out of time. So basically, if I see, I'm only joking. That's right. For me, whether it's a competition or just club stands or any models, it's if I look at it and think, oh, wow, I'd love to build that, or I'd love to paint that. And that's exactly how I'd want it to be in my mind's eye. That's what inspires me. So it's generally the finish, the weathering, the paint schemes, and the kind of finesse in the painting. It's only then when you get closer that you may look and sort of go, okay, there's a lot of extra details been added there. But it was one of those things years ago. I did a Tamiya treble 2 armored car and just built it out of the box, and all I did was replace some grenade screens. And a guy came and looked at it, and nobody said, oh, is this out of the box? They were obviously, it was the sort of like where I tried to weather it as sort of realistically as possible. And when people did say, oh, how much work have you done to this? And it was like, well, nothing. And it proved that it didn't matter how accurate it was in detail, that was the last thing people spotted, because they were
that's a good point.
Drawn to the painting and weathering. And that's me all over, and especially when it's aircraft, I'd love to do some aircraft. I kind of go off on a bit of a tangent, and then I'd obviously get drawn back into the 16th scale stuff. For me, if I walk by something and go, right, if I was going to do that particular model, that's what I'd want it to look like. And that's my sort of inspiration. That's what draws me in.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's, say, for instance, Ian in our club. He's a fantastic helicopter aircraft modeler. He's so good at I want Ian to build an Apache because I know his Apache would be how it would be in my head.
Yeah.
He'd build it and I can almost look at it and go, that's it.
That's it. I don't need to do it now. You've done it for me.
I don't need to do it because you've done it as good as anyone else can do it.
Yes.
And actually, I remember seeing Phil Sadinskas' Conrad 3 back in the day. Crikey, when was that? 1999, the Euro, I don't know. You had it at the mag, actually, didn't you? And so
it was after that. It was
2005, maybe.
Ish, that sort of time, yeah.
Yeah, and seeing that and just being absolutely blown away because it was like a seismic shift in the hobby, wasn't it? Something happened when I saw that they were like, "Oh, here we go." Since that point, I've always wanted to do a Panzer 4J, but you kind of think it's been done to the best it can be done already. So doing one is almost always going to fall short. But having a question in mind that I have, I think my kind of brain says, no, yours won't be as good as Phil's. But yours will be yours, and it'll still be cool. Yeah. So that's get coming on actually, and it's like, yeah, that looks pretty reasonable. So I'll be interested to get Phil's opinion on that as well.
It was something that we've been saying, and obviously you've been talking about like the competition side of the hobby, and if people that have got that insatiable need to sort of improve and the competitive spirit. There are obviously the vast majority of modelers are out there are the ones that sit with a tray on their lap, in front of the TV and just gluing a model together and stuff. For them, it's just escapism and it's that bit of fun. But and when I started, it was exactly that, and it was only really that you see someone else's model and you go, oh, why doesn't mine look like that? And then it's the being inquisitive, and I think a huge, the community now, and it's been talked about on this podcast recently. The community, not only from like the sort of, if people have got issues, whether it's mental health issues and stuff like that, everybody rallies around, and it just feels so much friendlier. Than when we went to the Euro military days. Again, that knowledge is power. And no one wanted to share. It's like, well, I don't want to tell you because you'll be as good as me. Where now, anybody you see, you can go and ask them, so how did you do that? How did you do this? And they're only too willing to tell you, because I always think the bigger picture is if you build a model and it's not as good as you perceived it in your mind's eye, but someone gives you a pointer, you improve, it boosts your enthusiasm. You buy another model, you buy more paints, you buy more products. You're helping keeping the hobby alive, and growing, but I think,
and as well, you get. I chat to someone, and if someone is better, and so let's just say that bloke with a tiger, if he comes back the following year and he's gone up, he's massively improved, and it's really cool. I just get to see cool stuff. Yeah, that's cool. I love what you've done there.
And it inspires you then.
Yeah, you think that's really cool because again, it just. I mean, probably even this podcast, and people will think, oh, I try a bit of sculpting. I try and just see, and I think I'm really good at it, and then and who doesn't want that?
Don't sculpt them in blue tack though.
It's a great place to start.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it's a great place to start. At least
very well,
you, right? Yeah. It's interesting. The best part about the hobby and the reason why we do this podcast is this collaboration and this chance, because it changes the dynamic. I mean, I don't look at today on March 2nd, 2025, my model's not as good as Spud's. And that's the beginning and the medium
sure?
and the
You've
end.
probably not seen Spuds in the flesh.
I actually have one of his in my model case, so I have seen it, but it's I love it anyway. But it's more of it's a journey, right? You've mentioned it, in the feedback you gave the person as a judge at SMC, and you're helping them set on the path, and being able to talk to Martin or Pete or Spud or Adam Wilder or whoever and be able to hear from them, okay, how did you do this? Where did you come up with the idea for, that elephant or that baseball bat and glove? And how can you help me kind of on that journey more than a finished result, but as part of my enjoyment of the hobby as a whole?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you also don't want to copy. You don't want to be a straight copy. If someone else puts a baseball bat on the back of a Sherman with a glove, you kind of think, oh, that's really? And that is also to be avoided. It's just to take inspiration, not duplication.
Yeah. Modeling is kind of about replication, but you don't want to move over into duplication. I mean, you talked about that just a minute ago with, Phil's Panzer, and you guys obviously push each other in your club and motivate each other and inspire each other. But I've spoken with Martin a few times about, well, I don't want to build that model because Adam already did that, or Spud already did that, or whatever. And I think there's quite a lot of that, but yet you can take inspiration for elements of that. Instead of copying Spud's Stewart, maybe I can take the way that he put the weathering on that toolbox on the side of the turret and maybe use that in a different way, or use color the way that that you do, Pete, on some of your dioramas, and take that inspiration and then try and incorporate it into what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those things that, like say duplication and stuff. But if someone likes, they spot something on a particular model that they really like, that, especially if it's a painting effect, not so much a detail like a baseball bat, because that's just purely copying. But if they go, I want to try and replicate and copy that effect, and if they're happy with the way, if they think I've nailed this, then that gives them just one more tool in their toolbox.
Yeah.
Then help them, progress with that model, and they go, right, okay, beforehand I never knew how to do rust, or I didn't pick the right color, or didn't get the texture right on mud or something. But then whether they copy you blatantly, but once they've got their head around it and they go, I've got this,
they can deploy it,
and then they'll use it in their own way. Then so
I think it's probably when it's a direct copy. When it's too close, you think, come on. But, if you really wanted to get something, you could, we all copy. There's a reason that we all walk and talk the same way. It's because we've all copied everybody else. So there is always that, but it's trying to steer it away and then spinning a bit of it, imagination onto it, and then, doing something else with it. So I think, but it is an interesting one when you do get a direct copy of something. It is a real honor. It's really inspirational, but you also, I don't know, it's a mix, isn't it? We was talking on the Four Corners the other day, there was something that's very, very similar to something I've done, and I'm not sure what it is, and we probably should.
It's your Vietnam M48, the 7-Up. Yeah.
That'd be the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the one.
That'll be it.
And you think, really? It's not exactly the same, but it's...
Yeah, they're all looking up in the same direction. And, and I always find it funny when they sort of say, I didn't know that diorama existed. And you go, live in a cave, do we? When it's been on magazines, on every social media platform, so, but you go, okay, it's flattering.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one that comes around, but it's, I think you have to just take it as a compliment, don't you? Yeah. That's all you can do as an inspiration, really.
So, John, what's something that you've learned from Pete? Not a technique or anything, but maybe something he's inspired you with in your own work, or something that really has impacted you as a modeler.
It's definitely storytelling, and to think about such an. Right, recompose.
Carry on, Spud.
Yeah, it's the storytelling, and everything's there for a purpose. If it doesn't need to be there, don't add it. Literally, does it add to the story, or is it offering nothing? Is it just a space filler? Then it doesn't need to be there. That's hugely important, and I try and combine that with the that side where obviously we've both been in the military, so you go, right, why would that be there? So you've got that. Okay, does it add? But would it be used in real life? Would someone actually stow an item there, or why would they carry that on a vehicle and stuff like that? So so I think it is fundamentally it's just sort of storytelling and kind of looking outside of the box really with it, and I find it fascinating when you try and work out someone's thought process to that, and then I find that really eye-opening. I know that's quite deep, but that's what I find.
Pete, I'm going to ask you the same question about Spud. What is it about Spud's work that maybe has inspired you or made you think of it in different terms than you did before?
There's absolutely nothing. Being honest with you, Scott, there's nothing that I look at on Spud's work.
You know, you're not in the club anymore.
Yeah. So
Can we have the T-shirt back?
The obviously Spud has been kind of tip of the sword with the 116 stuff, properly. It's been done before a little bit, but one of my favorite pieces of all time is Spud Stewart. It's just so good. The patina on the, because it's an older war, it's an earlier war piece, so it's got a bit of time to be a bit more worn in. I've got this weird thing, and I was talking to Adrian Davis about this, and he thought it was a bit weird, but pretty cool. Now, I will talk about it. If I look at an armor vehicle, and normally an interior, right, I'll be looking in there, just looking at it. It won't be a conscious decision. I'll be looking in it, and all of a sudden, I'll smell like oily, steely inside of an armored vehicle. I used to be in Spartans all the time, running in the back of them, and they all smell the same, bit of mud and piss and BO and just horribleness. And looking inside a Spud Stewart, I get that smell fills my brain, and then I think, wow, it's almost like it was an unconscious thought, and it becomes conscious, and if that happens, I think this is really good because my senses have done something. I've actually teleported down in scale, and I'm actually sitting in there, and it smells that inside of an armored vehicle that you've lived in for a while. Smell. Kev Smith's little half track in the desert also did it to me, and there was an armored car, that SMC, all burnt out. It's called a Tiger. I think it's called a Tiger. It's a modern Russian thing. It's all burnt out and shot up. Absolutely, it's Gertz actually.
Gertz, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and I held it up. Judging, you can get, I'm like a hands-on kind of guy, so I got hold of it and held it up, and I looked in through the back, and I could smell the burnt fabrics and stuff, and all the stuff. And I looked in, and then it happened. And when it happens, I don't know it's going to happen, and it happens very rarely. And I looked in, I thought that is good because it's almost crossed that. I don't know what you want to call it, like the third wall or whatever, like in films. It's done something more. So Spud Stewart inside of that, and especially at that scale, all combined, Spud Stewart is one of my favorite pieces of armor of all time. So that's Spud's my favorite of Spud's.
I'm going to echo that. I think that a lot of 16th scale models, and some of my challenges with getting one done, is just that they tend to look a little bit toy-like because they're so big that the kit parts almost look like you're opening like a die-cast toy, from a toy store. So you've really got to bring in that dimensional element, the way that he weathers both depth and sheen and tone of the colors, but also bringing into the mud texture and grass and all those things.
Yeah.
I think he's really, really good. The other thing I'm going to take away from that is entrants that go to SMC. If you see Pete picking up your model and smelling it, that's a compliment. So
it's a compliment.
Yeah,
go with it.
Yeah.
Just go with it.
Yeah, don't worry. Everything is fine.
If I'm licking it, then maybe have a word. But if I'm just sniffing it, then you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Pete, what's next for you? I mean, you mentioned aircraft a little bit earlier, but what's something that maybe you want to add to your toolbox, or you want to do a little bit differently? A challenge that you're ready to onboard in the next year or two?
Well, if you one on subject and one off, the one that's off subject is a bit of teaching. Having doing some workshops. I'm doing a workshop at SMC. I think that's a different step for me. So that's different. I mean, I've always worked in sort of coaching and HR and stuff, so I'm pretty good with people with presenting type stuff. So I did. Me and Spud was invited out to the ARTA show in Greece last May, and I did a workshop out there, and that was kind of cool. So I'm going to do one at SMC. So that's something that's different for me, is to teaching. So it's like, okay, that's again that knowledge share at another level, isn't it? But as for the actual modeling myself, again, aircraft, I've got some aircraft next, 132 scale aircraft. I'm redoing this Phantom some elements are really good, and I was never happy with the paint finish on this Phantom, so I've kind of took it back to bare plastic, and I'm kind of going again. So some aircraft I'm going to be doing, and there's a little bit of sci-fi that, like I said, the MK camo, that's kind of like, but I'm going to convert it and change the scale, because once you're in sort of sci-fi, you can do what you want, in my opinion. So that's some stuff, and that's also a good point, is when you take on a project, you need to consider 6 months here. This is 6 months of doing this. It's not like the old days when you buy it on a Saturday morning, build it on the Saturday, paint it on the Sunday, and shoot it with the air rifle on a Sunday night. So, those days are gone. So now it's a six month gig to get something that is you can put out at SMC, whether it be in the judges' cabinet or in the competitions, and go, yeah, that's the best I can do at the moment. That's me. My evolution is my latest thing. So it's again a bit aircraft, sci-fi. The 1/16 scale stuff is kind of calling me a bit, but I'm a bit like, nah, I'm not. I'm cool about. I've got a figure. I've got a 1/16 scale figure that I'm started playing around with, but I'm cool. I mean, Spud's 113, M113 is going to be special. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah,
It's
Spud,
gonna be really naughty.
you got to seal the deal with Pete. You've almost got him sold, but not quite. He's not ready to write that check yet.
I'm not. Yeah, no, I'm gonna. Otherwise, we're gonna just need in the words of Jaws, we're gonna need a bigger boat. We're gonna need some bigger tables.
Tables for the displays, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so mine's a bit eclectic, really, but I quite like it. I quite like that because, as I said, it's quite nice to mix it up. Still like doing the Cowboy of Normandy, the aluminium finish on the P47. I've never touched any of that, and so that's also interesting storytelling, figure sculpting, dioramas, aluminium. I like to just push it out and play around with stuff.
Spud, what about you? What's next for you? Obviously, the M113's got to get finished, but
yeah, I think with the moving over to this 1/16 scale stuff, when I look at the ones I've done so far, they've pretty much taken a year each one to do. So that's the problem, because they're. I think we've discussed this before. Each item, each piece of stowage or accessory is a project in its own right. And like, as Pete said with Marcus's Kettenkrad, you spend a couple of weeks just painting a seat, and that's pretty much what I'm doing with a helmet or an ammo box and things like that. And the time just goes, and before you know it, my build rate's down to like one a year. And also there's that self-induced pressure that I've been so fortunate to get a couple of golds. Now I know we've talked about SMC a lot. It's such a huge show over in Europe, and obviously John and the guys have sort of raved on about it. It's that pressure. You go, okay, I've won a gold. I can't rest on my laurels. So what do I do to try and improve them? And then that then slows your build rate down even more so, because you're becoming obsessed about each piece has to be as best as it can possibly be. So yeah, I've just been focused on these rather than I've got some aircraft in the stash that I'd love to get on with, but I just think they're a distraction. Maybe I do need to. I keep saying to myself, right, every time I finish the 16th scale build, I just say this is going to be my last one for a while, and I'm going to have some sort of fun builds. And I feel very blessed that Andy Klein has given me the M113 after I did the Achilles. I was like, right, that's it. I'm going to have a break. And then this big shiny box turns up, and it's like, ooh, and
ooh, hello.
It's like the little Martians from Toy Story, and so yeah, there's a lot of things I'd like to do, but I'm trying to remain disciplined in the 16th scale stuff just to get those out of the way.
And something I was talking to some of the guys about at Telford last year, you start thinking, okay, if you're talking a year, 6 months for me, say a year for Spud, okay, fine, we're both plus 50 now. So you start thinking, okay, so you, Spud, realistically, you've got, let's just say, 10 more models left in you.
Oh, cheers, mate. So I'm dying at 50. I'm so 67. All right. So
no. But by 67, the eyesight will be shit, or it'll be something that your fingers will be hurting too much. Or just we were talking about you could only have 10 years left in the hobby, where physically your eyes and your whatever you think, shit, what do I want to build now? What do I want to actually get done to that standard? Because after that, I might want to just build things out of the Tamiya stuff out of the box, and it'll be cool, but I won't compete or la la la. So because just for whatever, we're blessed at the moment with our health, but that might not always be the case. So you kind of think, what do you want to get done? And I know it's a mad thing, but it's just being completely realistic because of the time scales for the stuff that we're doing, 6 months or a year. I want to do another 50 dioramas. That's not going to happen. So I have to work out which ones I'm going to do.
Prioritize, yeah. I'm fortunate. I don't have a large stash of models in the loft, garage, wherever. And we all know the people, we're all guilty, or we have all been guilty of huge model stashes. And then you must get to that point where you go, right, I'm not going to live forever. And, you think, okay, if I build one a month now, going to have to live till I'm 230.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and it's not a morbid subject. It's just a complete, it's a complete reality.
That's it, yeah.
To make you focus on, what do I want to actually get built? And I think, and there's so much, it's joy in that clarity of knowing, right, I want to do this, I want to do that. I mean, I want to do a Phantom, a proper like Marines Vietnam Phantom in the grey. That's on the list. That's really close to the list, actually, because it's only when you said distraction, Spud, that say doing the MAK, the camel, that is actually distraction. Because they're not ones off the list that you want to get nailed. I mean, a Phantom, 130 scale Phantom, Marines one. It's a big, it'd be so naughty.
Do you know what this has just highlighted to me? I always say to people, obviously from me riding dirt bikes and stuff, that I'm going to say that I'll be old when I change from a 2-stroke dirt bike to a 4-stroke dirt bike, because that's admitting that you're old. Yes, I'm 57. So that was my way of saying I've still got loads of life left in me because I've not changed to a 4-stroke. You've now said I've got 10 models left in me. I'm just going to sit. I'm going to sit in a darkened corner and rock when we finish this chat.
Yeah, as you should. After any long-term interaction with me, you should sit and contemplate your life.
Don't forget, I did a resistance to interrogation course, so it's like nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, nothing lasts forever.
It's a very deliberate perspective, but I think it's pretty consistent with Pete's work and Pete's approach. He seems like a very deliberate person, and I mean the math works out, it checks out, but
let's so we'll have to see what happens, and hopefully get some things. What about you, Scott? What's on your list?
I'm working on a science fiction piece, hopefully for SMC, kind of a post-apocalyptic thing that is something new for me. But in keeping with that, if you could give some advice to a young modeler, somebody that's just kind of 25 or 30, but maybe really wanting to compete and make something that stands out, what advice would you give them?
I would say, back in my day, it's it's difficult, isn't it? Because literally back in the day, there was, again, the only real medium you had was a couple of magazines, a Euro once a year, where you could maybe claw a little bit of information out of somebody. But say Martin's night shifts videos, to pick that one, because it's the best one. There's so much that they can accelerate so fast into the hobby now through the sort of great work that Martin's done. You can just, it's almost all there. I mean, Martin's been going for a few years, and he's pretty much covered most of the foundations of most things, dioramas, armors, figures. I mean, it's kind of, if you just spent a good chunk of time watching Martin stuff, you would learn it took us 10, 20 years. I mean, me and Spud started knocking about in the mid to late 90s. And again, there was, maybe you might get a book and try it. It was just hard work when it was such hard work. So I would just say to that person who's coming back to the hobby maybe at 25, 30 years, is just try and be individual. And I mean, and we all know people that are actually, they are actually paralyzed by, there's too much information, there's too much to do. I've got the kits, I've got the photo etch set, I've got the extra 3D printed wheels, and I've got all the paint sets and AK interactive bits and pieces and wet palettes, and they don't build anything because they don't know where to start. So I would say, don't think about trying to win a gold at SMC. Just try and get some stuff if you're going to compete, just get some stuff on the competition table, however, wherever you've got, and then when you find out who's judging, because all the judges at SMC are excellent, and then just pull the judges and just say, what have we done? And then if they take, my approach and sort of say, well, this is, look at this and look at that, because only when you coach someone through this is how you do it. This is the way. I think that would be it. Just get stuff. If you want to compete, get stuff on the tables at the shows where the judges, some of the local shows in the UK, the person's judging from the local traffic warden's been dragged in to have a look at it. He ain't going to do you any favors. So you want to get it in front of people who can sort of coach you and show you what you're doing now. But as for techniques, I think there's so much stuff going on with Martin and the other guys that do the videos that the information is there. You just got to make it your own, and then we've all seen stuff, haven't we? Tried a technique that we've seen online and really made a bit of a mess of it. But you just keep going, really. Just got to keep. Don't try and think, oh, this is shit compared to that one, because it will be. Because I look at my stuff and I look at other people's stuff and I go, oh God, they're so much better than I am at that, because they are, but it's fine. But then I still look at it and think, oh yeah, I see how they've done that, and I'll do that now. So it's just, it's all taking those, like I broke it down when the coaching at the feedback is the steps. We're all still going up that ladder of trying to do the best we possibly can. And that's it. Just get on the ladder.
Yeah. Well, you've got to fail, right? I think you learn more from failing than you do from succeeding. I mean, I certainly do.
Oh yeah, it's human nature, isn't it? But talking about failing in the hobby, I think, we talked about happy mistakes. As you do make mistakes, me and Spud have both had conversations on things have gone wrong, and you think, oh, that's bloody hell, that's really good. How's that happened? Yeah. Now, more to the point is, how am I going to replicate something I didn't know how I did it?
In the first place, that's
the that's really, how did I do it again? And you're trying to find that holy grail again of doing stuff. But there's, I think, something that's happened with my own personal modeling is I'm kind of relaxed about it now. Whereas for many years I'll be really get stressed out about it. Oh, this is not working, and why doesn't that look very good? But now I know that there's nothing that I can't fix, really. There's nothing I can't sort out, and it's not that bad. Whatever it is, this Phantom, I stripped it back. I stripped it back to plastic, and it was finished and on a base.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking, I don't like it. And I just went, okay, we'll strip it then. It doesn't matter. Worst case scenario, you make a complete mess of it again. We take the cockpit out, we take the pilots out because they look mint, and I'll just chuck it in the bin, and I'll just do another Phantom, and the pilots will go into that Phantom. So it'd be fine. But it's coming out all right.
That's great advice. Spud, what would you say to somebody new?
Right. Well, the analogy I've used a couple of times, and my son will absolutely hate me. When he was younger, he was like Xbox mad, and he was into Guitar Hero massively, and so he could play the plastic guitar on Guitar Hero. So he badgered myself and his mum at the time to buy him a real electric guitar and amp. So he bought it for him. He literally strummed it once and realised he wasn't an expert just because he could play the Xbox version. So it's that thing of, don't worry if your first model doesn't look like ones you see on the internet and YouTube and all these other platforms. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy the hobby. Otherwise, you put too many pressures on yourself. And it's like people that go and buy say a mini art kit for one of a, but where there's so many parts and it becomes overwhelming. So buy some simple, basic. Just hone your skills on something simpler to work on, and then worry about improving and progressing, and it's that, I don't know, it probably sounds a bit like bar humbug, old man saying like, oh, these kids today, they've got no sticking power. But we are in a society now where, it's instant gratification, instantly be good at stuff. So, don't set expectations just too high, and just enjoy, and it will come in time, and don't be overwhelmed by, like Pete said, there's so much information out there that it can be overload. And, because there's so many products as well, people go out and buy these products because that's the done thing. And then they get home and go, well, I don't actually know how to use these products. So, stick with the basics to start with, and then gradually start introducing these different products and styles and techniques in, and just, like say, build up your repertoire over time.
And finish stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
finish
Yeah.
it. And you know what? That's a massive one actually, because
Yeah,
let's
Sam
say you get
Dwyer.
a tank, and stuff, and it's not quite going right. Just go. I want to crack on because actually now I put the tracks on it, and I've done all the weathering and the mud on the tracks. Actually, it looks half decent.
Yeah.
And sometimes as well, after you've kind of thought, oh, I'm not really happy with the paint finish, but you still crack on and get it finished. You think, oh, I learned a lot about that doing that undercarriage. So then, so it's a bit
If it was a half,
finish stuff.
Yeah, if it stayed as a half finished shelf queen, you may not have learnt that one critical thing that you would have got by finishing it, and you go, okay, it's not my best work, but by finishing it, I've learned something new that I can take to the next one.
Exactly, yeah. But I think people do get stuck on the kind of, they've got loads of models and they're all in grey primer, let's just say, and they don't go any further than that. And it's usually because they're a bit frightened of they don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Actually, you've got loads of models in grey primer, crack on.
Yeah.
Just crack on and build some stuff and get it wrong. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, does it? It's not real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, it's just for fun.
There isn't, any perfect model. I mean, every model, the person who built it, they can tell you something about it that maybe they don't like, or, maybe isn't perfect or whatever. But I mean, it's a journey. I don't think it's a destination. That's my own personal feeling. So anyway, Pete, where can people see your work if they're not familiar? Where can they see Profit and Loss and Mind the Gap and all these great pieces you've done?
Yeah, just on Facebook actually is the only place really, and of course on the Four Corners club stand at the show, they'll always those old favourites will always be sitting there really. Yeah, so it's Peter W. Usher is my Facebook account.
Or drop me a line, because I know where you live, and I know where you keep your spare key under the flower pot to the left hand side of your front door. So and then you can just go in and have a look at his models in the middle of the night if you like.
There's for thinking, Spud. See, and that's why But you will need to get up. You will need to get up in the loft and dig them out of a carrier bag.
The true friendship. It's a beauty to behold. And then the Four Corners Modeling Club, they have a page on Facebook as well, right?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, we need to be better on that, don't we, Spud? We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. It comes. I don't know. We just tend to. We don't sort of. We don't do enough on it, really.
Yeah, Kev's in charge of that. It's all Kev's fault. Yeah.
Come on, Kev.
Come on, Kev.
He's retired. He's got loads of time.
Exactly. Good point.
And then you guys are almost always at Telford and SMC, right?
Yeah, they're. I think we're all doing KMK this year.
KMK show this year as well in Belgium. Yeah, that's a fantastic show as well. Really, really cool show.
And then Telford's our one, isn't it? Telford's our UK one. Unfortunately, we don't compete. Some of the lads might put a few bits in, but I don't think it's we don't compete there, which is such a shame. But we got a club stand at Telford to come along. Say hello for sure.
Yeah, we've been really fortunate there because as soon as you come into the main entrance of the Telford Exhibition Centre, we are literally the first stand that you kind of stumble across. So we've been really, really lucky to get such a sort of prominent position, which has been really nice.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. This chat has been really, really incredible. Appreciate the perspectives. And, Pete, it's been great to hear about sort of, what goes into your pieces as you make them, and both of you, your perspectives on the hobby. And I'm sure people that have listened have learned an awful lot. I know I have. And hopefully we can meet up in the UK before SMC. Looking forward to that. And then seeing your pieces and watching Pete pick models up and smell them in at the contest.
Listen, I don't smell them. They happen in my head. Let's clarify.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers, Scott.
All right, well, that was a cool talk with Spud and Pete. I wish I was there. I love those guys. Sad I missed that one. I think I was out of town for that. So, it was good. And kind of moving on, do another little quick discussion based on some feedback from my friend Pat Brown, who's the vice president of my AMS chapter, and he brought up the previous discussion we had, and we were talking about natural talent, that sort of thing. And I guess JB had said that the artistry part of modeling can't be taught, and Pat said he respectfully disagrees, and brought up that maybe some people have more natural talent to that, but that can all be learned. And I love this topic. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, and it's one of those things that there no one will ever change my mind on this. I'm pretty flexible with a lot of things, but one of the things that no one will ever change my mind on is that anything can be taught. Some people may be better at it starting out, but if you put in the time and the hours and the practice, you will also get good. And I also kind of disagree with this from what JB said, where you can teach people how to view things, what we like to call artistically. It takes some people can do it pretty easily. Some people it takes a lot of practice. And he had also kind of dropped this feedback on our Facebook group. And like I mentioned, human beings, all human beings are inherently creative, right? That's what we do. That's part of the thing that makes us what we are, right? Some people are more creative, quote unquote, than other people, but if you don't think that all people are creative, then you've never seen children play, right? Every child has a vivid imagination, and all children can be creative when they play, when they draw things, and we all have that. But most of us that don't have hobbies or jobs that utilize those skills, it's just like anything else. Like just like a muscle you don't use, they will atrophy. So if you don't do something, what we consider creative or artistic, yeah, you lose those skills. Like I used to draw a lot when I was a kid, and I don't do that anymore. And wasn't the best, but like for a kid, I was pretty good at drawing. I don't do that anymore. And if I tried to draw something now, it would probably suck because I don't do that. I do other things that are artistic. Freudian slip there, but it's not the same. It's
He does them
you know what I mean?
He does them too.
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
I think TJ, you're passionate about this, and I totally get it. I think what Cliff said in that discussion last week, and if you listeners, if you haven't listened to it, our conversation with Cliff in 112 was great. He's got a great perspective, but I think more than the execution, I think what he was saying was it's vision that you can't teach, and
But
I think
you can teach that, because what you see, like artistic vision, it's all stuff that human beings can recognize, right? Like if you're colorblind, like that kind of stuff, obviously you can't see. Not everyone sees color the same way. That's I'm talking about general baseline thing, a baseline average human being. But like a lot of the artistic vision and stuff that we see, the composition and ratios and color, humans all are, because of we're all the same, right? Doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what color you are. We're all essentially the same thing, and people recognize all of these things. That's how we know about them, because it's like, oh yeah, we figured out that orange and blue go well together. Like you don't have to be Van Gogh to understand that's how that works. You may not consciously know that, but once someone tells you that, like, oh, that's why movie posters are those two colors, because they're interesting. They make me want to look at it, right? Like same thing with ratios and composition. We know we are gravitated towards a certain ratio that looks correct to us. You may not know that, but it's true. That's why we like those ratios and the specific composition. That's why art is the way that it is. Not everyone makes art, but most, I would like to think, everyone can understand it and appreciate it. Maybe not at the same level as everyone else, but you know what I mean? Like it's a kind of like a universal thing across like all cultures and time, like even back to like cave art. Like you see that and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand. I get that. Anyone can do that. Obviously, the cave artists weren't like making, the Renaissance masters at the same level, but like even primitive people understood what is appealing to other people, and that's why they did what they did. Obviously, those things changed. Like the Venus figurines, that was kind of a thing that those people liked, and obviously that kind of stuff falls out of favor time and as time goes on. But like Yeah, hopefully that kind of makes sense. Doesn't sound like too pretentious. I'm not consider myself an artistic person, but I get anyone can be.
No, I think there's elements of it that are absolutely true. I'm not sure I agree or disagree 100% with either side because, we've talked a lot about you brought up the drawing and doing that. And I think practicing anything and working at something definitely can improve. But I definitely think that some people see things intuitively and because each of us have our own experience in life, where we're raised, what art we're exposed to, all those kind of things make all of us individually and very unique, bring our own kind of perspectives to art and being creative and everything. And so maybe saying it's one or the other is because it's really kind of more of a soft skill argument. Maybe it doesn't maybe apply in that context, but I see both sides of it and can see the merits of both. But I think if you aspire to create and you aspire to be artistic and you just start to do it, you're going to get much, much better at it.
Yeah. And part of it, like I feel like this is primarily like an American idea when it relates to scale modeling, because you hear it all the time. Oh, the Europeans are so much more artistic in their models and this and that. I'm like, well, I mean, sure, like I would agree with that. I've been to European shows. I get it. Like I know they're really, fortunate enough to call a lot of the really high level modelers and that live in Europe friends. They're no different than any one of us, but maybe culturally they look at it more as art than, we've had that discussion before too, than most Americans do, where we have a more clinical view of it and that I'm not really interested in, and a lot of people are, and I get that. Like I like making exact replicas of stuff too, but then I take the artistic side of that and move on from there. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things.
I think that one of the big things about what make Europeans more, I guess, artistic is that it's their education system. It's taught a lot more in their systems than American systems, for one thing. They're designed around it more. There's more museums in their areas than there are here. And that's not a cop out for Americans, but I just think that's one of the reasons you see a lot more, I don't want to say better, but nice storytelling and information like that from them.
Yeah, I guess I agree and honestly disagree in both ways. I do think obviously you can be taught art, you can go get a degree in it. You can learn principles of art. I think what I am steadfast on is that you can't teach creativity. And maybe that's more appropriate than you can't teach art. It's you can't teach every individual, just like opinions and assholes. Everyone has creativity in some way, shape, or form. You can influence that creativity through teaching, but there's a reason why there's only one, there's only one Starry Night. There's only one, Mona Lisa. That's why Rembrandt, Van Gogh, Vermeer, that's why they're unique in a sense that, yes, they're all artists, but what I'm saying is you can't teach that specific level of creativity. There's a Pete Usher way of doing business when it comes to the model. I thought a good point with Spud, his creativity and art form is taking a 1/16 scale vehicle and making it a diorama on the tank where each little moment is telling a story. So that's where I'm getting at. You can't, in my mind, and again, it's my opinion, you can't teach that approach and level of creativity. You can obviously teach principles of art and principles of composition, but at the end of the day, when a pen is put to paper, glue is put to material, or paint on plastic, those moments, those can't be taught. Those are, in my mind, those are moments that the individual owns, and only that individual knows how to make that brushstroke or apply that pressure on the pencil. Again, I am all for you can teach art, no problem there. But to the level of creativity and the uniqueness in which people are making, that can't be taught in my mind. And I'll never build something like TJ. And again, there's a reason why there's only, in my mind, one Mona Lisa, one Starry Night. It's just that that's how I see creativity. I like that word better than art, because
Yeah.
it truly illustrates the unique nature of what's being created, is the creativity of that individual, which can't be taught.
Yeah, and I think Pete Usher's example of using the blue tack figures in his office that one day, just coming up with the creativity of coming up with that idea of the crossing, that was just offhand. It was it's just his mind thinking, what can I do? The creativity of producing the figures, and then the idea of the crossing. That was in my agreement with that. That's I think a perfect example.
Yeah, and I mean the diorama book #3 from AK talks about this, and it gets to what TJ talked. Like, you can be taught it, you can practice it, you can bring those principles to bear. I think just for me is I look at individual creativity as something that can't be taught. You can teach somebody to hit a golf ball, but I mean their unique physicality is going to make the shot more. I mean, it's just, I don't know. That's how I look at it.
I think that might be the crux of this, because the word individual that you just used, because art is an expression of who we are. So then it becomes very individual. And so I think what TJ is saying has a lot of value to it, in that you can create and you can make things. But, if you gave us all 5 of us on this call, if you gave us all a canvas and some paints and we all painted a painting, they're all going to be individual. They're going to be, nothing is going to be the same. And that's kind of the challenge / magic of doing this. At least that's maybe kind of how I see that a little bit. So,
yeah, I think for me, it's kind of it's very black and white. Some people have it, some people don't. And it sounds quite extreme to put it that way, but yeah, some people can be taught something and be given the best tutors and spend hundreds and hundreds of hours on something, and they'll just never get there, because I just don't think it's in them. So I genuinely have the belief that you either do have it or you don't. And I definitely think creativity is that mindset. You can't put that in someone's mind to do it. It's there or it's not. I don't know how you can teach someone to have that mindset or that mind canvas or mind palace to build these images or ideas. Again, for me, it's as simple as some people have it, some people don't, but they might have it elsewhere. That say for example, say if I had it, they would have something else I didn't. I do think every mind is different. Yeah, and maybe saying like you either do or you don't have it is a bit like possibly dismissive to the idea of being able to improve or be taught something. But I think when it comes to that sort of creativity, is why some people can just write music and it just comes out of them. It's like, well, you can't teach that. You can't teach someone how to compose a masterpiece.
Yeah, not every record is Dark Side of the Moon or London Calling. Some pieces of creativity are just different and to different levels. And John mentioned a lot of I guess famous paintings along that same vein. But then again, part of that experience too is when TJ puts together one of his Shermans and everything. I mean, the lens that he's viewing it when he's creating it again is very individual and very unique. And the way that John perceives that or Jensen perceives that, and maybe somebody else who doesn't have the same background and same experience and same appreciation for what TJ put into that, is going to look at that very differently. And so again, that becomes very individual.
But on the flip side of that, I mean, there's clinical proof that you can teach creativity. Like, they've done studies on this and have taught people how to be creative. And a lot of it comes from being emotionally aware, because most of what we do on the creative sphere is based on emotions. Like art comes from emotion, right? Like, that's unique to human beings. Like, it's all of our art is informed by our emotions. And when you teach people how to use their emotions and harness their emotions, you can teach them. And they've done actual studies and proven this in no uncertain terms, that the more emotional intelligence you have, and that again is things that can be learned, how to be emotionally intelligent, the more creative people become, because they learn how to utilize their anger, their sadness, their happiness. Look at all the Impressionists. Most of that is all based on that whole. And again, I'm not a art history professor, but my understanding is that the Impressionists movement was based on more emotional outlook at things. Like that's where that all comes from. I could be wrong. I could be talking out of my ass. I don't know. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But yeah, I mean, we can teach creativity, but I always will fall back and admit, yes, some people are better at it initially, but anyone can learn is the way I look at it. And I like to think I'm proof of that because I went from never building models before to building really good models. Not to toot my own horn, but like I know my models are pretty good. It's not like I mean I put pipes together. It's not like I have a background in any of this crap. Like I was like, oh, I want to do that, so I did it, and I was taught.
So, I mean, this question could go down a massive rabbit hole, and the discussion could go on for hours more. Quite philosophical. Do you think we are, as a people, more emotionally intelligent nowadays than we used to be?
Who knows? I have no clue.
I don't
Probably
think
not.
so. No.
Probably not. With
Emotion,
the
yeah.
rise of tribalism and
emotionally
partisanship.
intelligent, no, but maybe creative, yes. And I think because I mean, you don't have to go back very many generations. We'll just speak to our country here. You don't have to go back that many generations to a time of the Great Depression or a time where most of people's day in, day out was spent, farming and putting food on the table. And so I don't think that those generations had the time and the luxury that we do now. And so I think, yes, we're more creative, emotionally intelligent, I'm going to say. Overall, probably not trying to stoke any fires there, but I think those are definitely two different things. I do think we're more creative, though.
So there was a second part. There was an end to this first little bit that he had, and Pat wanted to know from us who and anyone else, the listeners too, and guests. I guess we can ask them who how we acquired our skills and who mentored them. So I'll start. I don't know how I acquired my skills. I just practice, I guess. But as far as because I've never had, to my knowledge, that I remember, anyone actually like sit down and show me something. Like a hands-on. Yeah, I've taken like classes and stuff, but I don't really count that. But as far as like mentors go, one of them's right here is JB. I've mentioned that a million times. Like I knew who JB was before he knew who I was, and then
I still don't know who the hell you are. Jesus Christ.
And I got to know him, and he helped me a lot with my photography, my modeling in general. Before I really knew JB, I was that guy that always liked to point his gun up on his tank,
God
and JB's
almighty.
like, "Don't do that," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, they do that. Is just trust me." And then I think it was a Firefly that I did. He's like, "Lower the gun." I was like, "Okay," and then after that, I was like, "Oh, now I see. Yeah, that does look way cooler." And yeah, it's just he's helped me with my modeling over the years, and he's certainly not the only one, but since he's here, I'm gonna tell him anyways, and hopefully I can embarrass him a little bit.
It's a great question from Pat, and it's like, just look at the podcast. The reason this podcast started in large part was TJ and Jensen. Jensen was part of another podcast that really had an impact on me personally, and TJ's work and our interactions on SMCG back in 2016 and 2017 really had an impact on me, really affected me, and communicated with me in a way that I really appreciated. And so when I initially reached out and said, "Hey, I got this really crazy idea," it was because of that. And then obviously with Grant and John, meeting them, both of them have impacted me, and that kind of gets back around to each of us are so individual, and our influences and our inspirations and our associations have such a difference and make us unique. I'm who I am because of everybody on this call. I wouldn't be anybody else without the inputs and the benefits that I've received from my knowing you guys and your friendship and seeing your work and being inspired by it.
So, I'm going to mention him again. I first knew about JB in 2017. I was hanging out with a group of modelers, and Andy Callis joined the call. And he was like, "You guys really need to check out this guy called John Bonani. He goes by JB Closet Modeler. He's really good." So I did. I was like, "Holy shit, this guy's actually quite good." So I'm not back then in like 2016, 17, really didn't like building armor at all. Didn't get any. I was an aircraft guy. Imagine. And I started looking at more of his work, and I think it was around that time you did the M3 Lee step by step on your website.
The cast one.
Yeah. I was like, wow, okay, if I follow this, I'll get good at armor. I didn't, but it was still a really good guide.
That's obvious.
It was low hanging fruit. But yeah, how did I get good? I never did. But how did I improve whatever skills I have? I improved by failing a lot.
Mhm.
I have messed up way more than I've achieved. But my word, those failures do teach you lessons. The amount of kits that have got trashed or products, I'm not using that ever again. Sometimes I think they are bigger learning curves than successes, without any doubt.
No doubt.
I have ruined definitely more kits than I've finished. But I'm thankful for every single one of them.
Agreed. I mean, I'm the same way. I met JB for the first time in person 2018. This is the JB show, by the way. In 2018 in Phoenix at the Nationals there. And he did the kit that I liked the most that he did of all his kits so far. And I'm kind of being biased. He did the broom bar. And that is a great model he did. And I learned a lot from looking at that, taking 100 pictures of it and moved on. I've been a modeler for a long time, on and off. There's a lot of people out there. You guys all definitely. TJ Sherman's and the colors idea in his designs are fantastic. Scott's sci-fi work, I don't care what he says, is immaculate. His tractor is another fantastic model. Jensen, your work, you undersell yourself so much. Your work is phenomenal, and I learned so much from just looking at you guys and talking. Oh, say more, say more. And it's just it's all been great. Then there's people like Sam Dwyer we met, and that's his work is phenomenal. And there's Rick Lawler, and there's Lincoln Wright, and there's 1,000 people out there that we all take stuff from. And I think it's being able to take stuff from everybody and that we've met on this podcast and at shows, and it's just phenomenal, and that's who I learned from. It's so much different for me, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent again, but when I first started modeling, there was no such thing as the internet, and all we had was books every month, a magazine or two of a month, or something at the end of the year there'd be a book or something like that. And you didn't have much. You had Shep Payne, of course, but through the years you see the growth of the internet, and I think we are so lucky to have it now that everybody can learn, and there's podcasts and there's videos and there's all this other stuff now that we can learn, and that's helped the curve of modeling so much.
No, I take influence from everybody. I think we've talked about it before. Everybody on the screen, and to be honest, there's a lot of influence from people just online. I mean, Weather Models is a great example of that. Every day is a bit of inspiration there, and even on the Plastic Posse group. But I think, in terms of just getting better, pushing yourself, I don't know, just like we just talked about, I don't have very many paint mules because I just experiment on the model. I have maybe one or two pieces that I paint on, but all of us have used these products countless times. Everything is recoverable. Well, except if you're Scott. The primer issue with my Leopard, this Kubel wagon, and I'm sure he'll bone something else up. So sorry, Scott. But that said, no, I mean, you just experiment. One of the good examples of that is during the 48 and 48 build, I built that Stuart, and I remember sitting Saturday night. I'd put a wash on it, all that stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'll wait tomorrow to do the dust work because it'll dry overnight and have enough time to sit, and then I'll do some chip paint and yada yada yada. And I'm like, you know what? Nah, F that. Let's just do it. So did it all that evening, and then even pulled out a dry brush and dry brushed it black. And man, that makes OD sing in terms of wear. And I know Spencer Pollard does that, and it's kind of the first time I did it in a way, and I was like, wow, this looks really good. It doesn't look pure black. It kind of just highlights and makes a deeper OD tone in a way because OD is essentially black and yellow. But yeah, just things like that. Just keep experimenting, keep pushing. Everything's recoverable. And guess what? If it's not, that's fine. Very rarely you'll find an instance where you've sunk so much time into a project that you're taking a big risk. Take risks on the slammer builds and then practice your techniques there. So when you get to something you really care about, like a Sinai diorama that's the size of a poker table, you're not trying something for the new time and the first time, I should say. That's a dig at you, Pat. I really like that diorama last year. But yeah, I think that's it. Bottom line, just keep experimenting.
It was kind of freewheeling there, kind of going all over the place. So that was pretty cool. He had one other thing, and he's like, "Oh, we should talk about techniques more." Nope, nope, that's boring. Sorry, Pat, we're never going to do that. You have to go get that somewhere else. No, I'm just kidding. Sure, if it comes up naturally, then I'd be happy to do it. But yeah. So with that said, Jensen, what time is it?
I think it's time I ask our viewers a question. Are you sick of drinking your coffee and tea out of a boring old mug? Are you bored of just wearing your plain black t-shirt while standing in Walmart? Are you fed up of your trousers looking unlounged? Well, I have some really good news for you. We sell merch. We sell Plastic Posse merch, t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, and even our world-famous Triple P lounge trousers. You can get all of these on our Triple P spring page, or head over to loungetrousers.com and get your Triple P fix right now. Well, everyone, that wraps it up for episode 113. I would once again like to thank our partners, Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, Bases by Bill, and AK Interactive, and also a big thank you to our Patreon supporters. Until episode 114 in a couple of weeks, where we'll have another great interview and lots of chat about the best hobby in the world, scale modeling. Stay safe, and thanks for listening.
One of the ways that you can help to support the Plastic Posse is to become a Plastic Posse Outrider. If you want to become a Plastic Posse Outrider, it's not hard, it's easy. You can even do it wearing lounge trousers. Just go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Plastic Posse Podcast, and you can set up a recurring donation there. These contributions really help us offset the cost of bringing you the posse, and we really appreciate it. There's 3 different tiers of support you can choose from, and they start at just $1 a month. You also get great benefits to being an Outrider, like early access to the podcast, premium access to the host, the chance to appear on one of our podcasts, and exclusive Triple P content and social events at model shows.
Let us recognize our amazing deputy marshals. These contributors help the posse do what we do, and we sincerely thank them for all of their support. And they are, in no particular order, starting with David Clark, who has upgraded from a posse foreman to a deputy marshal. So thank you, David. Following him, we have Richard Lane, Robbie Knopfs, Wesley Becker, Eric DeLeash, David Wassel, Matt Tutman, Glenn Fellon, Patrick Neff, Zach Pease, Brett Marcan, Greg Williams, Nick Wolf, Brian Clark, Sean Earl, Black Hat Scale Models, Craig Jarbo, Adam Jackson, Red Beach One Studios, James Rondo, Mike Norris, Stephen Rodwell, Rick Cooper, Eric Ravina, John Hale, see you at Amps, John, Eric Kane, Logan Hansen, Paul Burdett, Tim Gidcombe, Dan Newman, Robert Blocker, Tyler Moore, Derek Post, Craig Flynn, Kenneth Childress, Drew Gardner, Scott Hall, Frank Perrone, The Voice of Bob, Jerry B. Diamond, Terry Wilkinson, Chris Lovewell, Andrew Callis, Ethan Idmill, Steve Baker, Joe Porche, Patrick Brown, Jay Kidd, Brandon Gentry, Lee Fogel, Robert Klein, Mark Ewing, Toadman, Model Talk, Doug Reed, Greg James, Les Procala, John Everett, Uncle Buck, Mark Bradley, Eric Brubaker, Jeremy Moore, DV Scale Model Studios, Jeremy Elliott, Mike Talley, Previous Seat, Mediocre Middle-Aged Modelers, Dan Offel, and JC Osborne. You almost got me on one of those, but I was able to do it.
Let's not forget our posse foreman. This crew is made up of our posse outriders who give the deputy marshals a hand, and we also thank them for their support. Graham, Keith, Dwayne, AK Armor, Bill, JAK, Casey, Therese, Raphael, Russ, Stephen, Mickle, LeVar, Gil, Mike, Michael, Steve, Scott, Emery, The Krieger, Aussie Modeler, William, Jeff, Eddie, Ross, Warhoff Models, G. Baker, Tom Stuff, Crazy Loca, Len, Cliff, Damien, Cody, Nukeman Mike, Ash, Irish Pat, Paul, iBoners Models, Mike, Mr. Grizz, Jackson, Joel, Chris, Jamie, MD Models, Papa Steve Munsell, JV, Eric, Matthew, and David.
And of course, our $1 and free Posse Outriders. Thank you all very much.